Chapter 845. Zhang Wei was a weak man, so he naturally didn't know how to tell the truth from the lies. That was why he didn't even know when he brought 3 Saint Martial gods and Saint Martial kings into the general's mansion. The general's mansion was simple, but it was the command center of the entire Luo River estuary fortress. Not only Feng Jixing, but all the captaincy-level generals of all the major armies also dined in the general's mansion. People came and went, but the security was tight. However, this kind of security was useless to Bai Minghuan and the others. These mortals couldn't sense the presence of gods at all, and the kitchen was some distance away from the military hall. So even Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi, and Ouyang Yan couldn't sense the 3 god-level warriors entering the general's mansion's backyard. Busy until late at night, Su Chuan and Lei Wen's hands were sore from cutting vegetables. It was rare for them to use their hands to kill people to cut vegetables, and Bai Minghuan, a general and a prince-level royal, couldn't escape. The 3 of them cut carrots in the middle of the night, feeling that this kind of life was no longer fun. You 3 sleep in the woodshed tonight. It's quite warm with grass. Don't light a fire, or you'll be in big trouble if you start a fire. A 10-man squad leader of the Department of Spirit Medicine scolded loudly. Yes, sir. Su Chuan nodded and asked with a smile, then will we get our pay today? His acting skills were quite good. The 10-man squad leader couldn't help but have a look of disdain. What a bunch of greedy guys. Here, these 6 Jin coins are your pay. Tomorrow, you have to get up before dawn to wash the rice. Go to sleep. Thank you, sir. With a squeak, the door of the woodshed closed. Su Chuan and Lei Wen stood on both sides of the door. Sensing that the people of the Department of Spirit Fire had gone far away, Su Chuan said, General, when do we start? No rush. Bai Minghuan narrowed his eyes. I can sense a few god power fluctuations in the general's mansion's backyard, but they are too weak. You 2 control your breath, don't expose yourselves. Yes, sir. Looks like. Bai Minghuan clenched his fists and smiled. Looks like Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, and Ouyang Yan are not sleeping together, and Chu Chu is sleeping far away. Of course not. Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan are Lin Muyu's women. Lei Wen said. Oh, really? I didn't expect Qin Empress Lin Muyu to be so cunning. No wonder she couldn't improve her cultivation, he. Someone, who was sleeping at the foot of the Heavens Vault's snow mountain, couldn't help but sneeze. He didn't get the blessing, but instead got the blame. It was simply too miserable. As the night deepened, the entire residence fell into silence. Swoosh, 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 3 shadows flashed in the wind. Bai Minghuan, Su Chuan, and Lei Wen took out their weapons from their portal bags and aimed at a small yard deep in the backyard. There was an aura there that contained the god power of wind, fire, and thunder. To be able to understand these 3 laws, one had to have a 3rd-level divine spark or above. Obviously, it was Feng Jixing. Puff, puff, with 2 clear sounds, the 2 soldiers in the yard fell down with blood spurting out of their necks. They didn't even have time to cry out. Kill! Bai Minghuan growled. With a sweep of his long saber, the god power directly broke the door open. Boom! With a loud explosion, the whole room was shattered by Bai Minghuan's blade power. The blade chi went straight to the few rooms in the back. Screams could be heard everywhere, and no one knew who was the one who suffered. Dead? Lei Wen narrowed his eyes. No. Bai Minghuan chuckled. In the golden dust, a man stood in the wind, holding a saber with both hands. It was Feng Jixing. He didn't even take off his armor when he was sleeping. He was wearing a soft armor, but there was a horrifying wound on his chest. He had been wounded by Bai Minghuan's attack. It's rare for General Tianji to come. Why don't you go through the front door? Feng Jixing smiled coldly. Bai Minghuan smiled as well. It's the same no matter which door. We're all here for business. Are you going to die yourself, or do we have to do it? If you want my, Feng Jixing's, head, you guys better do it yourselves. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up slightly. Divine power gushed out and the purple electric flame wolf martial spirit circled around his body. Streaks of lightning and flames howled unceasingly, turning everything in the surroundings into dust. He knew how strong the opponent in front of him was. Even before he made a move, he had already raised his power to the peak. If he didn't do this, he might not have the chance to make a move. Clang! The long saber sank into the ground. Bai Minghuan clenched his fists and smiled. Su Chuan, Lei Wen, you two guard me. I will kill him myself. Don't let anyone disturb us. Yes. The two dragon knights raised their power together. Come on. Bai Minghuan turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed out. His left palm swept out, and a blood-red wave of air appeared. It was his famous skill, the Scarlet Palm Art, which was said to have the power to destroy everything. Feng Jixing didn't dare to be careless. His two sabers swept out, creating 3 storms in a row, which meant that he had used the sky-swallowing demon blade 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of thunder and the sound of the wind mixed together, and the 3 blade storms collided with the heavenly skull palm, forming a shockwave that even pushed down the walls of the courtyard. Bai Minghuan let out a low roar, and his 5 fingers tore apart the storm like an eagle's claw. The edge of the palm wind swept across Feng Jixing's abdomen, and immediately, the diamond body protection on the surface of Feng Jixing's body started to crumble. Wah! Feng Jixing spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. He had never expected this God-Emperor-level expert to be so strong. His palm wind was actually able to destroy his vigorous battling Vajra divine power. You can die now. Bai Minghuan laughed, and the scarlet palm art came down again. Feng Jixing's body sank as he held the crimson phoenix and azure dragon sabers horizontally in front of his chest. With a roar, he activated the Vajra body protection 8th heaven's divine power to protect himself. He was actually taking the initiative to defend. Boom! The space was distorted by the scarlet palm art. Strands of destructive power cut through Feng Jixing's arms and chest like blades, tearing the armor in front of his chest and arms into pieces. There were even small cuts on his arms. If it weren't for the diamond body protection, his arms would have been destroyed. But it was also the power of this attack that sent Feng Jixing flying back 100 meters. He bounced up and turned into a golden stream of light that appeared in the air. He raised his 2 sabers and slashed down with a roar. The 9th style of the windwalking saber technique, Demon Slash. Good move. Bai Minghuan's face was full of excitement. It was rare to see a Saint Martial Venerable in front of him with such power. Such an opponent was really rare. His 2 palms unleashed a power that could devour the heavens. The sky-piercing palm was like a pair of palms that could tear apart the sky. It actually forcefully pushed aside the countless dimensional slashes that Feng Jixing had unleashed. The disparity in strength left Feng Jixing with no chance at all. Come down. Bai Minghuan put his palms together and turned them into a powerful suction force that pulled Feng Jixing down. He raised his hand again, and a violent force landed right on Feng Jixing's chest. Boom! Feng Jixing no longer made a sound. His entire body fell into the distance like a withered leaf. Even his aura had disappeared. The crimson phoenix and azure dragon sabers landed in the rubble and bounced off. Feng Jixing, you died just like that. You're too weak, ha ha ha. Bai Minghuan laughed out loud. In the night sky, 2 balls of flames came at the same time. It was Tang Xiaoxi and Ouyang Yan. Kill them together. Bai Minghuan's murderous intent rose, and the scarlet palm art went straight for Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi had already turned into a 9-tailed demon fox. Her sharp claws swept out, clashing with the scarlet palm art several times. sparks flew everywhere. Tang Xiaoxi had the demon power to protect her, and her power was much stronger than Feng Jixing's. She blocked 5 attacks from Bai Minghuan, and still did not fall into a disadvantage. Her palm was filled with the power of the ghost book, and the ghost power of the fear and terror pages rushed out. Bai Minghuan could not help but be stunned. It was said that Tang Xiaoxi only had the cultivation of 20 grotto heavens, but right now, every attack of Tang Xiaoxi's was more than 40 grotto heavens. Even the burning of the flames made Bai Minghuan's palm hurt a little. Chu Chu, save Feng Jixing. Tang Xiaoxi used her divine power to flip the ghost book, and shouted into the air. With a roar, Chu Chu, who was wearing a white robe, landed in the rubble. Looking at Feng Jixing, who was covered in blood, he could not help but frown. He hurriedly put his palm on Feng Jixing's chest, and felt a chill in his heart. Feng Jixing's heart meridian had been shattered. Looking at his pupils, the light was slowly fading away. Chu Chu gritted his teeth, feeling unspeakably uncomfortable. Was one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan going to be gone? He could not wait, and he could not think too much. With a low roar, he put both palms on Feng Jixing's chest, and the divine power in his body rushed in, protecting the last bit of his heart meridian for Feng Jixing. If his heart stopped beating completely, then there would be nothing he could do. Right at this moment, Ouyang Yan's light snort sounded from the distance. She was simultaneously attacked by Su Chuan and Lei Wan, these 2 dragon riders, and had already suffered internal injuries. However, those 2 weren't much better off either, as their faces were burnt black. But the one who was in the most danger was Tang Xiaoxi. The Heaven Scarlet Palm was powerful and overbearing. If it was a frontal attack, few warriors at the same level could be a match for it. Not to mention that Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation was several levels lower than Bai Minghuan's. She had already used up too much of her divine and demon power, and in the blink of an eye, she was at a disadvantage. She was hit by Bai Minghuan's 3 consecutive palm strikes, and even the ghost book in her hand was showing signs of dissipating. Rustle, rustle, Bai Minghuan walked step by step towards Tang Xiaoxi, and said with a smile, I heard that you are Lin Muyu's woman. If I kill you, I wonder if Lin Muyu will be heartbroken? If Lin Muyu loses her mind, then it will be even easier for her to be killed, ha ha ha. The Heaven Scarlet Palm power inside Tang Xiaoxi's body was in a mess. She looked up at her opponent, but she could not summon any power. At this time, a few figures appeared in the sky, and one of them had a fist covered in flames. He said, Did you hear that? That big guy said that woman is the successor's woman. Should we save her or not? Of course. Another warrior with a palm covered in ice said hurriedly, Once his woman is killed, he will be too sad, and it will affect his cultivation. I will go first, and you can substitute. Scholar Ling, use the heavenly book of ice law to save the other woman. She is also a great beauty. Scholar Ling growled, Beeman King, go. Roar. Chapter 846. The power of ice and fire suddenly rose in the air, as if they had appeared out of nowhere. The 2 powers were shockingly strong. Bai Minghuan's body shook. At this moment, he understood that his life was in danger. He didn't want to kill Tang Xiaoxi anymore. He retreated and raised his palms to meet the power in the sky. Heavenly tortoise palm against ice palm and fire fist. Boom, boom. 2 beams of divine power, one red and one blue, spread out in the air. Bai Minghuan was pushed back a couple of steps, his face extremely pale. An extremely powerful power came from both of his palms. One was the ice attack of the 41 divine waves, and the other was the fire attack of the 40 divine waves. The 2 completely different powers seemed to be from the same source, rampaging inside Bai Minghuan's body, with a frighteningly destructive power. Looking up, he saw 2 middle-aged men standing in the wind, smiling at him. Who are you? Ice Palm Wu Tong, under Heavenly King Fushi. Fire Fist Jingjian, under Heavenly King Fuxi. The two said the same thing. Fuxi? Bai Minghuan frowned, didn't he already ascend to human realm upon sky? You don't know anything. Wu Tong said coldly, although His Majesty the Celestial Thearch has ascended to the Outland, his decree can still be sent to the mortal realm. Now, you actually dare to touch the woman of His Majesty the Celestial Thearch's successor. You are courting death. Just the two of you? Bai Minghuan smiled, two Saint Martial Kings, people who haven't even comprehended the godly wall, how dare you be so arrogant? Just as he finished speaking, there was a sudden shout from behind him. Flames soared into the sky, and a figure stumbled out, spitting out blood. It was Lei Wen. The dignified dragon rider Lei Wen couldn't even take a single blow from his opponent. What's wrong? Bai Minghuan asked angrily. Su Chuan flew back with his dragon spear, yelling, "This demon spirit is too strong, I can't beat Lei Wen." Behind him, the huge body of the Demon King rushed over in a ball of flames, waving its huge fists and smashing down on Bai Minghuan. It was like a father beating his son. Bang! The raging flames spread out. Bai Minghuan blocked with his palms, but his legs were still smashed into the ground. Even the divine wall on his shoulders had started to crack. He was shocked. This beast was at least at the level of a demon emperor, right? A total of 59 waves came from his arm. This demon spirit was even stronger than the ice palm and fire fist. However, Bai Minghuan changed his mind. In any case, Feng Jixing had already been killed by the scarlet palm, and the mission had been completed. There was no point in fighting with them here. Thus, Bai Minghuan didn't even think as he flew over and kicked the Demon King away. He held Lei Wen in one hand and shouted, "Su Chuan, let's go. The mission has been completed." Yes. Just as Wu Tong and Jing Jian were about to give chase, Bai Minghuan turned around and sent both of them flying back with a sky-piercing palm. Stop chasing. Scholar Spirit stood majestically in the wind and said, "Quickly go and see if Feng Jixing can still be saved. His aura is about to disappear." Yes. They flew over together and saw Chu Chu's face was covered in sweat as he tried to extend Feng Jixing's life. He had even used up almost all of his divine power, but still couldn't save Feng Jixing's life. "Let me see." Scholar Spirit flew forward and pressed his hand on Feng Jixing's forehead. He closed his eyes and said, "Although his heart meridian is broken, his soul is not dissipating." "Quick, Wu Tong and Jing Jian, didn't the two of you only eat half of the elixirs? Take out the other half and extend Feng Jixing's life." Wu Tong was startled and said, "Didn't we say that half of the elixirs were for the inheritor?" "Stop talking nonsense." Scholar Spirit glared and said, "The inheritor has the sovereign personality, which is several times more difficult to cultivate than a mortal personality. This elixir is of no use to the inheritor. Why not use it to save Feng Jixing's life? I think the inheritor will make the same decision. Quick, stop talking nonsense." "Yes." Wu Tong took out the other half of the elixir reluctantly and placed it in Feng Jixing's mouth. The elixir melted in his mouth, and in the blink of an eye, Feng Jixing's pale complexion turned for the better. At the same time, wisps of golden luster appeared in front of his chest as if the stars were circulating within it. That was the sign of his heart meridian being reconnected. Good, good, his life has been extended. Chu Chu was covered in sweat and sat on the ground. Feng Jixing can be saved. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi wiped his sweat and said, "Chu, you've worked hard." "Not at all." Chu Chu shook his head and looked at Scholar Spirit and Ice Palm Fire Fist. He said, "You are?" "Oh." Scholar Spirit smiled elegantly and explained, "Lord Chu Chu might not recognize us, but the three of us, along with the Demon King, are the people who guarded the Heavenly Tome Monolith Forest in the White Leaves Forest. Now that the majority of the inscriptions in the Heavenly Tome Monolith Forest have been lost, we didn't stay there. Her Highness Lin Muyu has obtained the inheritance of the Heavenly Tome and Fushi's divine power, and is the inheritor of His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor, Fushi's Heavenly Emperor. She is also our master, which is why we helped you just now. I am Scholar Spirit Su Hao. These two are Ice Palm Wu Tong and Fire Fist Jing Jian. The big guy is the Beeman King. We are all His Majesty the Heavenly Emperor's divine servants. So that's how it is. It's really great that you has friends like you. Chu Chu's face was filled with gratitude. After Ouyang Yen walked closer, she said, Feng Jixing still hasn't woken up. When will he wake up? Very soon. Ling Shusheng said, this panacea comes from the sky upon heaven. It can greatly stimulate the potential of a cultivator, and it can also gather souls to prolong his life. It can be said that Feng Jixing is lucky. This time, he should be able to benefit from the misfortune. Not only will he survive, but his cultivation will also be greatly improved. That's great. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. Quick, help Feng Jixing to his new residence. Yes. A group of attendants finally arrived. Wait a minute. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stopped everyone. She frowned slightly and said, the person who tried to assassinate General Feng just now was Marshal Baiming Huan of the Tianji Empire. This is enough to prove that they are very afraid of General Feng's ability to command troops. If there are no accidents, the Tianji Empire will launch an all-out attack tomorrow. They don't know that Ling Shusheng saved General Feng with the panacea. In that case, why don't we beat them at their own game and announce to the public that General Feng is dead? Hang white cloth on all the steel walls and pretend to show them. Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Princess, she is really smart. This is the best. Once Prince Feng Jixing wakes up, this battle will become very interesting. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance and said, Zhang Wei, pass down my order. The 50,000 imperial soldiers are to rest early and prepare to fight the enemy tomorrow morning. Also, don't spread the news of General Feng's death among the army. Yes, I understand. Zhang Wei nodded while Luo Yu smiled. Princess, she is wise and decisive. You don't give in to men. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and didn't say anything. Luo Yu was too smart. No wonder Feng Jixing wanted to transfer him over from the imperial capital. Late at night, deep in the backyard of the martial residence, Feng Jixing finally woke up. After listening to everyone's description, he couldn't help but lie on the bed and say emotionally, in the Fire Badger Valley, after my 30,000 brothers were killed, I was tortured by myself every day for those 3 years. It was as if I had died once, and now I have died again. However, it is all thanks to the brothers in the Heavenly Tome Monument Forest. Thank you for giving me a second chance, Prince Xian, you're welcome. Scholar Ling cupped his fists and said, you're the successor's sworn brother and naturally our friend. Saving you is part of our duty. It's just that we've been away from the world for a long time and didn't know that the battles in Middle-earth have reached such an extent. Along the way, there are scenes of commoners dying and people losing their homes, especially in Lingnan. The barbarians of the Blackstone Empire have massacred wantonly in the Lincoln province, plunging the people into misery and suffering. That's right. Feng Jixing said, the barbarians of the Celestial Pole invaded Middle-earth. What we soldiers can do is to bathe in blood, kill the enemies, and serve the country. Since you're Yu's friends, you're also the Empire's friends. With your abilities, you should be able to take charge. Since that's the case, why don't you help me kill the enemies? What do you think? Scholar Ling smiled. We're here to serve the successor. If Prince Xian has any orders, we should listen to them. It's just that we haven't met the successor yet, so we need Mu's personal orders. Tang Xiaoxi felt a little troubled and said, but Mu is currently at the northern foot of the Heavens Vault Snow Mountain, and his exact location is unknown. It'll probably be very hard to find him. However, the war might break out tomorrow, and the Empire urgently needs your help. What do you think? Scholar Ling frowned and said, although we can't serve the Qin Empire directly, since Princess Shi is the successor's woman and Prince Feng Jixing is the successor's sworn brother, I have some heavenly book weapon embryos that I can give you guys. Oh? Heavenly books? Yes. Scholar Ling put his hand into his interspatial bag and dug around for a while. Very soon, he took out a large pile of weapon embryos. There were sword blades, metal fans, shields, armors, and so on. All of them were glowing with a golden glow. Divine books? Feng Jixing looked at Scholar Ling in disbelief. Scholar Ling smiled. That's right. There are 3 mediocre-grade divine books and 6 inferior-grade divine books. All of them are pages on the fire laws. As long as they're used properly, they'll have amazing effects. That's great. Feng Jixing ignored his injuries and got to his feet, hugging the weapon embryos. He was so agitated that he almost fainted. He said, if it's a battle formation, I'll have at most a 40% chance of winning. With these divine books, I'll have at least a 70% chance of winning. In the battle tomorrow, I'll definitely make the Tianji Empire's bandits regret coming to Middle-earth. Everyone smiled. Feng Jixing's rebirth seemed to have opened up a trump card for the battle the next day. The next morning, before the sky was completely bright, the sound of war drums was heard coming from afar. Just as Tang Xiaoxi expected, the Tianji Empire could not wait any longer and went to war. When the sun rose, in the distance, countless catapults, siege towers, and flagstone carts appeared in the field of vision. Enormous dragons were hovering in the sky, while on the ground, the dense phalanxes of beast cavalrymen, heavy cavalrymen, shield-bearers, spearmen, and archers of the Tianji Empire were moving forward in an orderly manner. They looked like a rolling chariot rolling over the steel wall. Chapter 847. Out! With a wild roar, Zhang Wei raised the long saber that had been bent and stood imposingly on the steel wall. He stabbed the long saber into the bricks and took 2 flags, one red and one blue, from the hands of his attendants. When the red flag was waved, the battle drums thundered. Immediately, the tens of thousands of imperial guards who had already left the city to the north of the steel wall raised their spears, shields, bows and arrows and started moving. There were even warhorses in the formation. Clearly, this was still the Qianquan tactic, but it was a modified version. Dong, 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 the war drums were very concentrated, as if they were pounding on everyone's heart. Su Yu, Zhen Yifan, Chu Chu, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others stood on the city wall, staring at the battle formation below. This battle was too important to Great Qin. If they could win this battle, there would still be room for negotiation. But if they lost this battle, the iron hooves of the Tianji Empire would trample over the steel wall and sweep across the whole of Middle-earth. Will it work? Su Yu pursed her red lips, and a strange light flickered in her eyes. She was Qin Yin's aunt, and also one of the few close relatives left in the Qin family. Naturally, she was very concerned about the outcome of this battle. Zheng Yifan said calmly, "Don't worry. As long as Prince Xian Feng Jixing is still here, this battle will definitely not be lost. At least, it won't be a crushing defeat." Su Yu looked back at the depths of the crowd. Under the strict protection of a group of imperial guards, a man covered in gauze and dressed like a scholar was sitting in the city tower. His 5 fingers were rhythmically tapping on the armrest of the wooden chair. Every time there was a need to change the formation, Zhang Wei would always turn back to look at her, and the rhythm of his fingers was the command to change the formation. This battle seemed to be commanded by Zhang Wei, but in fact, it was still Feng Jixing who was personally commanding. 3 miles away from the city, a huge carriage was pulled by a huge beast with 6 legs. Bai Minghuan, Gong Shangming, and the others were sitting in the carriage, as well as a group of high-ranking generals of the Flowing Spirit Corps. Humph! One of the nobles looked in the direction of the steel wall and laughed. They're actually setting up a formation? I heard that the array formation of the Shattered Cauldron realm is very mysterious. This time, I really want to see how powerful their array formation is. Is it really as powerful as the legends say? Is it really able to block the attacks of the dragon riders, tiger leopards, and the iron hooves of my Tianji Empire? Gong Xiangming held the palm leaf fan in his hand and said with a faint smile, now that Feng Jixing is dead, they won't be able to stop our empire of Tianji's attack anymore. However, for safety's sake, Marshal, I think it's better for you to only send the 50,000 soldiers of the vanguard to attack them. Order the vanguard to set up a pocket formation and destroy their formation. I'd like to see how powerful their formation is. Oh? Baiming Huan smiled. Sir, are you going to set up the array yourself? Yes, Marshal, please set up the formation platform for me. All right. The horns of the Tianji Empire sounded one after another as the 50,000 soldiers marched out of the formation. They were all sword and shield soldiers and archers. The magic of the pocket formation was not the attack, but the suppression. Once the enemy entered the pocket formation, they would feel like they were trapped in a quagmire. Every attack would be very weak, and they would not be able to figure out what was going on. A platform that had been prepared for a long time was slowly dragged to the front of the formation by many chariots. There were many flags around it, and 2 dragon riders were circling in the air to protect it. Gong Xiangming rolled up his sleeves and walked onto the platform with his bare arms. He picked up 2 drumsticks and started beating the drums. In a blink of an eye, his forehead was covered in sweat. He was not a cultivator after all, and he did not have much physical strength. However, he still kept changing the rhythm of the drumming. The pocket formation of the Tianji Empire was different from the heaven and earth battle tactics. It did not rely on flags, but on the rhythm of the drums. They're here. Zhang Wei was even a little excited. The 50,000 soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Army had spread into the valley. The moment they entered the valley, they immediately spread out on both sides. It was as if they had spread out a large net to eat the 50,000 Imperial Guards who were in the heaven and earth battle tactics. What should we do? Zhang Wei looked at Feng Jixing who was behind him. Feng Jixing waved his hand lightly, and his voice was transmitted to Zhang Wei's ear, let them eat, and change the formation. Yes. The red and blue flags fell together, and with a whoosh, it brought about a huge gust of wind. The heaven and earth battle tactics under the city walls quickly changed. The shields were on the outside, the archers were on the inside, and the cavalry was in between the 2 formations, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Not long after, the pocket formation was completely formed, and it surrounded the heaven and earth battle tactics, and slowly approached. Is that person beating the drums Gong Xiangming? Zheng Yifan looked into the distance. Zheng Fang cupped his fists, yes, father. That person is Gong Xiangming. I have seen his portrait. What a clever commander. After seeing us setting up the heaven and earth battle tactics, he actually used the pocket formation to deal with it. Humph, Gong Xiangming is indeed a scheming person. Su Yu did not understand, and the group of high-ranking officers of the empire were also confused. Zheng Yifan looked at everyone's confusion, and explained with a smile, it's very simple. The heaven and earth battle tactics has both offensive and defensive capabilities, but it lacks mobility. The entire formation is too large and cumbersome, so it can easily be swallowed up by the pocket formation. In addition, Gong Xiangming probably used the pocket formation as a precautionary measure. Zheng Fang was startled, all right, why do you say that? Foolish boy, do you still remember how Su Jiantao achieved victory in Cangnan? He used the underground chain cannon formation. That's right. Zheng Yifan stroked his white beard and said, how could a smart person like Gong Xiangming not learn the lesson of the Blackstone Empire's crushing defeat? Look, when Duke Wei built the steel protective wall, he chose the Luo River estuary as a fortress for a reason. The Luo River estuary itself is a huge basin and valley, easy to defend and hard to attack. Tens of thousands of people can come in at most, but it's very difficult to get out. Once the valley entrance is sealed, it's like catching a turtle in a jar. If we set up the chain cannon formation in advance in the valley of the Luo River estuary, they will die no matter how many people come in. Therefore, Gong Xiangming is not that stupid. He used the pocket formation and surrounded 50,000 Imperial guards in the middle. As long as we detonate the chain cannon formation, the ones who die will be the Imperial guards and not the soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Corps. Everyone was stunned. This was not only a decisive battle between two great empires, but also a game between the wise men. The Great Qin Empire had wise men like Feng Jixing and Zheng Yifan, while the Tianji Empire also had people like Gong Xiangming, who was exceptionally resourceful. Therefore, this was destined to be an unprecedented battle. The sound of the war drums suddenly stopped. Gong Xiangming was changing his formation. As expected, the pocket formation shrank one by one. The shield-bearers were at the front, and the archers were at the back. When the distance was less than 50 meters, a round of arrows was fired. At the same time, a dozen dragon knights slowly descended from the sky, in order to defend against the magic crystal crossbows carried by the Imperial guards. Gong Xiangming was meticulous, he had already thought of everything. Dang 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 dang, sparks flew continuously as the arrows hit the shields, but there was always a part that could not be defended. In the blink of an eye, many of the Imperial guards were injured by the arrows. What's worse was that the enemy's dragon knights were circling in the sky. They were like tigers eyeing their prey, making it impossible for them to defend. Zhang Wei's face was ashen as he turned around and asked. Feng Jixing said indifferently, "Four corners charging form." Yes. Zhang Wei quickly waved the two flags. The sound of the war drums on the city walls also started to thunder. The four corners of the universe formation started to separate. The shields moved aside, and a group of Imperial guards wielding their swords and spears charged out. They went straight for the four corners of the pocket formation. At the same time, the shield-bearers and spearmen crowded around like a tide, covering the cavalry's charge. Gong Xiangming glanced at them and couldn't help but smile. The war drums started to change. After 3 rapid strikes, they would strike once, repeatedly. Loosen the pocket. The captaincy in the formation quickly shouted out the order. The pocket formation slowly retreated, like flowing water meeting a boulder. This caused the universe formation's charging form to be ineffective. Instead, the Dragon Knight's dragon breaths burned the pocket formation a few times. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of Imperial guards were buried in the sea of fire. Formation defense form. Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Zhang Wei then gave the order to continue defending, and the entire universe formation shrunk once more. Feng Jixing's countenance grew increasingly grim. This Gong Xiangming was far more formidable than he had imagined. What should we do next, Your Highness? Zhang Wei was at a loss. Wait. Wait? That's right. Just continue defending with the formation defense form. I'll tell you when it's time to change the formation. Yes. In the blink of an eye, the dusty valley became peaceful again. Groups of Imperial guards stood still with their blades in their hands, as if they had turned into statues. What's going on? After almost an hour, there was still no movement. Bai Minghuan was getting impatient. Why aren't they changing the formation? Is this the limit of the Qin Empire's formation? Su Chuan sneered. The Shattered Realm army is a bunch of trash. We were right. I'm afraid not. Bai Minghuan said indifferently. Let's see how Gong Xiangming handles it. On the platform, Gong Xiangming's expression was calm. He raised his head to look at the people of the Qin Empire on top of the metal protective wall. Just how powerful was this person hidden among the generals and nobles that he could actually use formations to such an unclear extent? Although the universe formation looked ordinary and just a defensive formation, Gong Xiangming could feel the threat deep in his heart. He could feel the invisible killing intent hidden in it. Strategist, what are you waiting for? Castor, the commander of the Flowing Spirit Army, said in a low voice. If not now, when? Do you want to wait until the day our food runs out? Don't forget that the Sky Connecting Province is already lacking in resources, and many of the granaries have been burned. Our 300,000 soldiers can't hold on for more than a few days. Gong Xiangming frowned. He knew that if he lost this battle, his position as the chief strategist of the Tianji Empire would probably be lost. Attack! This time, Gong Xiangming shouted his orders and waved the drumsticks to hit the war drums with all his might. It was incomparably dense. The pocket formation quickly closed. The battle was coming. Chapter 848. They are going to attack. Zhang Wei turned back to look at Feng Jixing. His eyes were filled with helplessness. He himself was a fighting general, and he was only proficient in killing on the battlefield. In terms of commanding troops and formations, Zhang Wei probably couldn't even be ranked in the top 100 among the generals of the entire Qin Empire. At this time, Feng Jixing finally stood up shakily, and with the help of 2 guards, he walked to the edge of the city wall. He carefully looked at everything on the battlefield, and said, "Change the formation, use the strange formation to break the whole formation into parts." Yes. The flag was waved, and the drums were beating loudly. The strange formation was a formation that Feng Jixing had comprehended after many years of research on formations. The dust on the battlefield flew up, and the whole Qianquan battle formation turned into 16 arrows, shooting at 16 angles of the pocket formation, like nails nailing the opponent's formation. The cavalry took the lead, and the shield soldiers and archers followed. In an instant, the whole formation was broken into parts, and there were 16 small Qianquan battle formations, and each battle formation had about 3,000 people. Attack formation! Feng Jixing ordered loudly. The drums were thunderous, and the 16 Qianquan battle formations under the city wall flew up, and the shields hit the opponent's formation with clanging sounds. The cavalry suddenly stabbed, using the method of attacking the surface, and the formation spun rapidly. How could the soldiers of the Tianji Empire resist? In the blink of an eye, there were already many casualties, and it was a mess. The Qianquan battle formation could be broken into 16 small battle formations, but the pocket formation couldn't, because there were too few people, and it was impossible to form a large area of encirclement, not to mention that the Qianquan battle formation in front of them was like a top spinning at high speed, and before the pocket formation could be formed, it was torn apart again, and it was of no help at all. Dragon Knight, attack! Gong Xiangming shouted loudly. In the sky, the giant dragon soared, and suddenly swooped down. Inside the Qianquan battle formation, Luo Yu held a saber in her hand as she charged forward on her warhorse. She shouted, "Use the heavenly book and burn them to death." Each of the 16 battle formations took out a heavenly book, and they were all heavenly books of the law of fire. There was no lack of heavenly books among them. Immediately, balls of flames were spat out into the air. The Dragon Knight's dragon battle spin could block the demonic crystals, but it could not block the divine power of the heavenly books. In the blink of an eye, all of them were burned black and battered. There were even a few Dragon Knights with slightly lower levels of cultivation who were directly buried under the power of the heavenly books. Ao ao ao, the sorrowful cries of the dragons were one after another. Nearly 20 Dragon Knights were burned back together, unable to lead the battle at all. Magic Crystal Crossbow, fire! Luo Yu commanded the troops to charge back and forth. The archers all switched to special magic crystal crossbows and fired the magic crystal arrows into the enemy's formation that had lost the protection of the dragon riders. In an instant, mushroom clouds appeared, and the sounds of people shouting and horses neighing could be heard. At this point, the first battle's outcome was already decided. The sounds of killing rushed into the heavens from within the valley. The Imperial Guard's iron hooves chased after the defeated flowing light army's front line, beheading countless people. Clang! Clang! 2 drumsticks fell to the ground. Gong Xiangming stood silently on the general platform. He couldn't believe what he saw in front of him. He actually lost so miserably in the first battle with the Qin Empire, so thoroughly. There were constantly defeated soldiers escaping from the valley, but there weren't many of them. Most of the soldiers had already been buried in the valley. The sound of the magic crystal crossbows was like the tune of their death. The front line is finished. Castor sat down on the ground and muttered, "My 50,000 brothers. Commander! Commander!" A few captaincy surrounded Castor and helped him up. However, Castor's gaze was like a sharp sword that could pierce through his heart as he stared at Gong Xiangming. The veins on his face popped up as he said angrily, "Gong Xiangming, what have you done? Didn't you say that the front line could defeat the Qin Empire with 50,000 soldiers? Why is it like this?" Gong Xiangming gritted his teeth and slowly walked down the platform. His eyes were full of confusion as he said dejectedly, "Feng Jixing is not dead." "Feng Jixing is definitely not dead, what did you say? Come with me to see the general." Castor grabbed Gong Xiangming's collar and flew him to the center of the army. Boom! Gong Xiangming was thrown down from the sky. His face was ashen as he fell onto the carpet in the middle of the army. His face was pale as he laid on the ground. It was as if he had died, but he was still muttering, "Feng Jixing must not be dead. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost." "What happened? Someone come, help him up," Bai Minghuan said in a low voice. Castor knelt down on one knee and said, "General, the 50,000 soldiers of the Flowing Spirit Corps disappeared in the blink of an eye. Less than 1/10 of our brothers made it back. This is all because of Gong Xiangming's poor command. General, please help my 50,000 brothers." "General Castor, I can understand how you feel, but this is not Mr. Gong Xiangming's fault." Bai Minghuan said indifferently, "I used my divine power to check just now. Just like what you said, Feng Jixing is indeed not dead." This battle was indeed commanded by Feng Jixing himself. Mr. Gong is good at strategy, but not formations. This is not his fault. Then my dead brothers died in vain? Castor's face was very ugly. Soldiers die in battle. This is the law of war. They died for the country, and the Tianji Empire will remember them forever. Commander, please don't look into it anymore. Victory and defeat are common things in war. If one is to be held accountable for a defeat, then who would still serve the empire? Who would dare to serve the empire? Bai Minghuan's voice was very calm, but each word was filled with power. The other could not say anything else. Castor gritted his teeth and said, "Yes." An old general said, "After this defeat, Mr. Gong must have lost his confidence. He is no longer suitable to command this battle. I think we should find someone else." "Military counselor?" Bai Minghuan asked. Gong Xiangming did not say anything. But the generals behind him all knelt down and said in unison, "General, please find someone else." "Ha ha ha ha," Gong Xiangming suddenly threw his head back and laughed maniacally. He turned around and strode out of the central tent. Every few steps he took, he would stagger. He looked like a drunkard. Castor frowned. "Marshal, Gong Xiangming has committed a great crime of disrespect. Marshal, please punish him. Otherwise, if everyone is as unscrupulous as him, wouldn't the empire's laws be messed up?" Bai Minghuan narrowed his eyes. "No need to say more. Gong Xiangming is a strange man, and he has his own quirks. I do not blame him. Tell me, what should we do next? Who will take over Gong Xiangming's command?" An old general cupped his fists and said, "I recommend General Zhou Xinyao." Zhou Xinyao? Yes, Zhou Xianyao was once a diplomatic envoy to the Qin Empire's eastern capital, Winterfrost City. He was fearless in the face of danger and was highly adaptable. Furthermore, he had been well versed in military books since he was young and was well versed in the art of troop deployment. Among the dozens of military advisors of the empire, only Zhou Xianxia could be compared to Gong Shangming. Since Mr. Gong is no longer suitable to command, why not let Zhou Xianxia have a try? Where is Zhou Xianxia? Bai Minghuan said in a low voice. Yes, General. Among the strategists, Zhou Xianxia stepped out and saluted. Whatever the marshal commands, Zhou Xianxia will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Bai Minghuan smiled. Zhou Xianxia, our vanguard has been defeated. What should we do now? Yes, after the victory, the enemy's morale will be boosted, but they will also become proud soldiers. Zhou Xianxia was wearing a black brocade robe. As the saying goes, proud soldiers will be defeated. To us, Mr. Gong's defeat is a bad thing, but it is also a good thing. The last time I went on a diplomatic mission, I took a close look at the structure of their steel walls. The outside is very sturdy, but the inside is empty. It can be said that the Qin Empire's governance is very corrupt. Even a fortification like the steel walls would be misused. As long as the war drums sound, we will slowly advance with the heavy shield soldiers, the stone chariots will cover and smash, and the dragon riders will protect. Finally, we will use the thunder chariots to blast open the walls. Once the steel walls are razed to the ground, the Lingdong Plains will be the world of the tiger leopard cavalry, the nightmare of the Qin people. Bai Minghuan was overjoyed. That's good. Men, give Zhou Xianxia 100 bolts of brocade and 500 taels of gold. He will be a military counselor and immediately command the army. Yes, General. After the sun had set, the day's battle had ended, and the Luo River estuary had over 40,000 corpses of the flowing spirit army lying on the ground with no one to collect them. The cold wind blew, and the corpses seemed to be telling of the outcome of the battle. Reporting to Your Highness. The commander's residence was brightly lit. Zhang Wei's face was filled with joy. We have calculated, the flowing spirit army's frontline army has lost more than 43,000 men, and we have captured 4,000 of them, only 2,000 managed to escape. We have destroyed their morale in this battle, it was too satisfying. Feng Jixing did not dare to laugh. If he did, the wounds on his face would tear apart. He just sat there like an emotionless person. Tonight, be on guard against Bai Minghuan's sneak attack. Tang Xiaoxi said, we cannot let them use the same trick again. Yes. Feng Jixing nodded. At this time, the messenger rushed in and said, reporting to the two highnesses, Princess Shi, His Highness King Qin has a letter. A letter from Mu. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly took it and opened the small scroll. It was indeed Lin Muyu's handwriting, and it was very good calligraphy. After so many years in the Broken Cauldron realm, Lin Muyu had always been learning calligraphy. Now, his calligraphy could be said to have its own style. Although it was much inferior to Qin Yin's calligraphy, it was still passable. What did you say? Feng Jixing asked. Tang Xiaoxi looked up and said, Mu congratulated us on today's victory. But he said that the Tianji Empire will definitely launch an even fiercer attack tomorrow. He has already gathered Situ Sun, Wei Chou, Situ Shui, and the others at the foot of the Tianqiong Snow Mountain. He has gathered nearly 30,000 elites from the Longdan army camp. Tomorrow, he will send a letter. The Longdan army camp will set fire to the Flowing Dawn army and advance behind them. They will cooperate with us to completely defeat them. Good. Feng Jixing happily slammed his fist on the table, but his excitement affected his wounds. He immediately sat down in pain and said, the Imperial Guards also lost more than 10,000 people today. Tomorrow's battle will be even more bitter. We can't let their dragon riders get close to the steel protective wall, or else the magic crystal cannons will be lost. Who will come out to fight tomorrow? Everyone was dumbfounded. The Tianji Empire would definitely turn out in full strength for tomorrow's battle. They still had more than 200,000 soldiers. Who would be able to stop them? Zheng Yifan knew that the Divine Might Battalion's tens of thousands of men would definitely not be a match for them. The Zither Dragon army under Su Yu's command would also not be able to fight on their own. The military strength of the other feudal vassals was less than 10,000 people. None of them could be the main force of the battle. At this moment, a general stood up majestically and said, "National Army, let's go." It was Tang Zhen. Feng Jixing was stunned. There are only 50,000 people in the National Army. No way. Ling Huyen, who was beside Tang Zhen, also stood up and bowed. She said, "Your Highness Prince Xian, what if we add in the demon race's 200,000 soldiers?" Feng Jixing pondered for a long time and said, "Tomorrow, the Tianji Empire will send out all of their elite troops. Among them, the beast cavalry includes tiger, leopard, wolf, badger, and rhinoceros. Tens of thousands of beast cavalry will charge forward with great power. Do you two know what it means to go to war?" "Yes." Tang Zhen said calmly, "Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days and used in one day. For the Empire, I am willing to die on the battlefield." Ling Huyen also said, "I will follow my husband forever." Tang Xiaoxi remained silent. She wanted very much to stop Ling Huyen and Tang Zhen from stepping onto this fierce battlefield, but she could not do so. Chapter 849. Tianqiong Snow Mountain was a mountain range that stretched for hundreds of miles. It was also the boundary between Lingdong Province and Tongtian Province. Tianqiong Snow Mountain was covered in snow all year round. Now that it was spring, the snow on the mountainside had melted, turning into streams that flowed down along the mountain path. Flags fluttered in the wind in the valleys on both sides of the streams. There was an army secretly stationed here. It was the Longdan army camp led by Lin Muyu. The valley was located under a rock wall, and the long, rugged rock wall was like a huge arm that protected the valley, causing this land to be unable to see the sun all year round. However, it also protected everything in the valley. As a result, there were dragon knights flying across the sky almost every day, but no one could see the Bile dragon camp that was stationed here. Lin Muyu's white robe was severely damaged. The armor on his chest had a mark left by a dragon sword. His white cloak was stained with blood and covered in holes caused by arrows. Although the enemy's spears and arrows could not penetrate Lin Muyu's divine power wall, it was still very easy for them to pierce through the cloak. He sat on a cold rock, surrounded by divine power. He let out a long sigh, and his eyes shone brightly. Obviously, his cultivation had also increased by a level. "Congratulations on breaking through again, Your Highness." Wei Qiu happily congratulated him from the side. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, looked calm. He said, "I've finally reached the 25th grotto heaven, but it's still too slow. There are too many dragon knights in the Tianji Empire. I can't defeat them. It's already not bad. Your Highness has the Supreme Godhead. It's a holy existence only recorded in ancient books. I don't think it's that easy to cultivate and improve." "Yes." In the distance, Situsen walked over with his hand on the hilt of his sword. "General Sun, how is it?" "I'm afraid we can't hold on for much longer." Situsen said with a solemn face, "We can only eat our rations with cold water. Many people are already sick, and our rations can only last us until noon. This is not the most serious problem. The most serious problem should be the fodder. We didn't bring any fodder to the Heavens Vault Snow Mountain, and many warhorses are starving. Your Highness, what should we do?" "I'm fine." Lin Muyu waved his hand and said with confidence, "Today we can determine the winner and loser. Pass down the order, the whole army is ready. As soon as the sun rises, we will go down the mountain, go straight to the back of the camp of the Lu Ji army, and attack them. But we only have 30,000 men left. Even if we launch a surprise attack, we won't be able to escape unscathed. Situ Sen was a little anxious. His eyes were red as he said, "Your Highness, our Dragon's Courage regiment used to be so majestic. With 200,000 men, we were known as the strongest army in the empire. But now, after the bloody battles in the 8 wastelands and half a month of fierce battles in the Tongtian province, the Dragon's Courage regiment only has 30,000 men left. Your Highness, please preserve the bloodline of the Longdan army camp. Don't let these 30,000 brothers die. Otherwise, there will be no more Longdan army camp in this world." "I know." Lin Muyu stepped forward and held onto Situ Sen's arm. Along the way, many of his brothers and sisters had died in battle. How could he remain indifferent? "Don't worry. The winner will be decided in the battle at noon today." Lin Muyu slowly pulled out her long sword and said, "Well, everyone, get ready for battle. In this battle, we must make the Tianji Empire tremble with fear at the mention of our Longdan army camp." "Yes." The moment the first ray of the sun pierced through the clouds, people in the valley shouted and horses neighed. A large number of cavalrymen in light armor marched out of the valley one by one with spears and swords in their hands. However, they did not urge their horses to gallop. Instead, they just let the horses trot forward. They tried their best to preserve the horses' strength and waited for the real battle. 2 hours later. Dong, 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 the dense sound of war drums echoed under the steel protective wall. In the distance, the army of the Tianji Empire entered the Luo River estuary. The soldiers with heavy shields were in front, and the wolf soldiers were in the back, pushing the steel chariots. The sky was covered with gloomy clouds. It seemed that it was going to rain soon. On the city wall, many of the Empire's generals who were watching the battle felt a chill in their hearts. The Tianji Empire's army was neat and orderly. This time, it was obvious that they did not intend to fight in formation. Instead, they wanted to swarm in. In the face of these sharp catapults, stone chariots, and thunder chariots, what would the Empire use to resist them? Zhenfang frowned and pressed his hand on his sword. He murmured, "Is this the true strength of the Tianji Empire?" Su Yu's face was full of anxiety. She said softly, "God bless my great Qin." However, Feng Jixing had already changed into a military uniform. He raised the red phoenix saber and said loudly, "Beat the drums and prepare for battle." The drums of the Empire sounded. Rows of demons and soldiers of the National Guarding Army, who had already left the city, marched forward one after another. Their long halberds were like a forest, and their sabers were as sharp as snow. The drums were dense, like a storm. Soon, the city was covered with a layer of imperial purple Yinhua flags. The purple Yinhua was the emblem of the Qin family. It was like the symbol of a nation. For thousands of years, many warriors had fought for it and shed their blood on the yellow sand. Now, in this battle, a strong enemy had invaded. The purpose of all the civilians and soldiers of the Qin Empire to join the battle became simple and simple. They were bound by the common enemy to protect their homeland. Was there any better reason? Dong. Dong, the commander of the National Guarding Army, Tang Zhen, slowly pulled out his sword. The morning light shone on his weathered face, making him look firm and calm. The 3 golden stars on his neck shone with a moving luster. Tang Zhen licked his chapped lips and shouted loudly, "Brothers of the National Guarding Army, Her Highness has given us the name of National Guarding Army. Today, we will use our blood to defend the prestige of the National Guarding Army. Prepare for battle, kill the enemy, and raise the prestige of our country." Everyone raised their weapons and shouted in unison, "Kill the enemy, and raise the prestige of our country." The shout resounded through the sky. In the crowd, a warhorse slowly moved out. On the back of the horse was a beautiful girl in red armor. It was Tang Xiaoxi. The National Guarding whip was wrapped around her waist, and she was holding a long sword in her hand. It was more convenient for her to charge and break through the enemy's formation. This time, Tang Xiaoxi was no longer a leader. She was going to fight the enemy with the demons and the National Guarding Army. Not far away, Ling Huyan's face showed a hint of relief. She said loudly, "My fellow demons, Her Highness, she is going to fight with us." With just a simple sentence, the blood of the fox tribe, bear tribe, snake tribe, and werewolf tribe was already boiling. They raised their weapons at the strong enemy in the distance. The demon army was different from the human army. Many of them were born beasts, but they had human nature. Therefore, when facing the tiger and leopard cavalry, the demon army had an advantage. Even a pack of wolves could kill a tiger, not to mention they were a stronger race. Dong, 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 the sound of the war drums became more intense. The morning light from the east cast the shadows of the soldiers on the barren land. The sound of the horses' hooves gradually became more intense. Go! Go! Tang Jin quickly whipped his horse, and it started galloping. The group of National Garrison Army behind him also urged their horses to gallop. Nearly 5,000 cavalrymen were all wearing the dark blue armor of the Tianji Empire. They flooded forward like a blue ocean, directly colliding with the heavy shield soldiers and spear soldiers of the Tianji Empire. The moment the powerful impact of the warhorses knocked the shields away, Tang Jin also stabbed his sharp sword into the throat of a heavy shield soldier. With a "pu" sound, the first blood of this battle flowed out. Kill! Dust flew up from the ground. Both sides were fighting in a chaotic battle. There was no formation or strategy to speak of. However, this was a real war. It was an exchange of life and strength. Roar, 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 in the sky, the Dragon Knight spurred his giant dragon to dive down, pouring dragon flames onto the crowd. Meanwhile, the goblin army on the ground hurled their spears in response. Instantly, the chaotic attacks landed on the Dragon Knight's Imperial battle spin, but it did not have much effect. The arrows flew randomly, shaking the giant dragon's scales. After only 2 rounds of attacks, the Dragon Knight had no choice but to urge his giant dragon to charge into the sky. If the distance was too close, the giant dragon would not be able to withstand too many concentrated attacks. On the ground, there were bursts of flames, and columns of smoke rose into the sky. Many dragons flew around in the sky like big bats, making the people on the ground helpless. This won't do. Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and said, "Zhang Wei, immediately bring 5,000 Imperial soldiers out of the city to reinforce the army. Push the dragon hunting net made by Lord Qin Xiling up to test its effect." Yes. Zhang Wei flipped and jumped off the city wall. In the next moment, a few city gates opened, and black chariots were pushed out. This was a type of chariot that was controlled by mechanical springs. What was thrown out wasn't torch stones or spears, but a large net. The large net was densely covered with tiny prickles. These prickles were all tempered with demonic heart stones. However, the dragon hunting net had only been made recently, and it hadn't been tested yet. No one knew if it would be effective, so they could only try it as a last resort. Aim! Zhang Wei held his long saber and urged his horse to walk in front of the crowd. He waved his long saber and cut down the enemies one by one. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and pointed into the distance. That's it. Calibrate and prepare to fire. A group of soldiers stopped the chariot that was carrying the dragon hunting net. After calibrating, they shot it out with a "pa" sound. The small net opened up in the air and became a large net that was tens of meters wide. However, the fire dragon knight in the sky seemed to have expected this. He suddenly pulled the reins, and the dragon's dorsal fin shook. He quickly turned around and avoided the dragon hunting net. Again. Push the chariots forward. Zhang Wei commanded. Close to 20 dragon hunting net chariots followed his orders and entered the crowd. Although it might not be effective, it could at least serve as a deterrent. Hong. A wave of flames engulfed the crowd. It was Tang Xiaoxi's fire sword qi. It almost swallowed a group of tiger leopard cavalry. That was not all. After raising her palm, a huge god's engraving seal fell into the crowd, turning a group of madly charging heavy cavalry into ashes. Tang Xiaoxi's attack greatly boosted the morale of the soldiers, but her own god power was being depleted quickly. She didn't continue to use the fire fox seal. Instead, she raised her sharp sword and swept through the crowd. After following Lin Muyu for so long, Tang Xiaoxi's swordsmanship had improved greatly. At the very least, it was more than enough for her to charge and break through enemy lines. Fresh blood nourished the ground. Both sides stabbed, charged, and slaughtered each other. They used each other's injuries to determine the outcome of the battle. Chapter 850. By noon, the losses on both sides were incalculable. The land to the north of the steel wall was covered with corpses, and the entire land was about to be dyed red. Both sides fought fiercely, and the initial charge turned into a scene of slaughter. The entire Luo River estuary was filled with people, and cries of killing and unwillingness could be heard everywhere. Roar, 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 the tiger leopard cavalry was exceptionally fierce. The war tiger bit the neck of the opponent's mount, forcibly tearing off a piece of the warhorse's flesh and chewing it in a ferocious manner. The fact proved that the human mounts were indeed unable to resist the tiger leopard. The entire battlefield was filled with the roars of the tiger leopard and the neighing of the warhorses. It was extremely tragic. As time went by, the demon race's army also showed signs of fatigue. Groups of Nagas were squeezed together by the heavy shield soldiers, and then they were pierced by countless spears, causing blood to gush out violently. The Fox tribe's cavalry, tiger leopard cavalry, and wolf cavalry clashed with each other. People constantly fell off their horses and died. Ling Hu Yan angrily charged into the crowd, but she was already at her limit. Roar! The bearman tried his best to charge forward, but he was turned into a man of fire by the stone-torched chariots. He hulled miserably and fell down. It was an unbearable scene. Madam! Tang Zhen led a group of cavalry and rushed forward, shouting loudly. The moment Ling Hu Yan turned around, she saw that Tang Zhen was already covered in blood, and his chest had been pierced by an arrow. The injury was very serious, and it made Ling Hu Yan's heart feel like it was being stabbed by a knife. Puff! With a muffled sound, a dragon spear pierced through Ling Hu Yan's left leg. The dragon rider holding the dragon spear had a ferocious look on his face. Behind him was a giant dragon that had already died in battle. He pushed the dragon spear and Ling Hu Yan's body to the ground, and roared, "Go to hell, demon woman!" Madam! Tang Zhen galloped over, raised his sharp sword, and slashed at the handle of the dragon spear. Crack! The spear broke, but he also fell to the ground with his horse. He held Ling Hu Yan's body and rolled several meters away. The arrow in his chest was broken, and he coughed violently, and blood gushed out of his mouth. Ling Hu Yan endured the sharp pain and sat up. She held Tang Zhen's body in her arms, but she could only watch him pass out. Tears gushed out of Ling Hu Yan's eyes. Disregarding the dangers on the battlefield, she buried her face in Tang Zhen's neck and cried out, "Don't die, please don't die. Husband, don't leave me alone. Go!" A group of tiger leopard riders charged over. But from another direction came a roar, "Go!" It was Zhang Wei's voice. He had brought hundreds of people, all of whom were armored soldiers of the imperial army with sabers, swords, and spears. They quickly formed a circle and formed a small Qinkuan battle formation. Zhang Wei dismounted from his horse with a long saber in his hand and shouted, "Guards, protect Tang Zhen and Ling Hu Yan. The rest of you, follow me and cover their retreat." Behind him, a chilly arch said loudly, "General Zhang Wei, something terrible has happened." Princess, she has led over 30,000 men to be surrounded at the entrance of the valley and can't return. What should we do? Zhang Wei looked up and saw dust rising into the sky in the distance. The battlefield was in a mess, but he could vaguely see a large number of demon clan soldiers being surrounded in the center. In the sky, a giant dragon was circling and constantly spitting out dragon's breath. What else could they do? At this moment, no one could save Tang Xiaoxi. But with her cultivation, it would not be a problem for her to escape. Don't worry about it. Cover Tang Zhen and his wife's retreat. Yes. Amidst the lingering smoke, the faces of everyone on the steel wall were ashen. The strength of the Tianji Empire had far exceeded everyone's expectations. The 200,000 demon clan soldiers and the 50,000 kingdom guarding army were a total of 250,000 people. They even outnumbered the enemy slightly, but they were completely at a disadvantage in less than half a day. Why aren't they here yet? Feng Jixing looked into the distance, his face full of anxiety. Beside him, Chu Chu said, "Soon. They should be here soon. Forget it, we can't wait any longer." Feng Jixing clenched his teeth and said, "Luo Yu, gather all the imperial guards immediately and follow me out of the city to fight. Rescue Princess Xi and the tens of thousands of demon clan soldiers." "Yes. Prince Xian, be careful. If you leave the city now, it bodes ill," Zhen Yifan said in a low voice. "Thank you for your concern, Duke Fan." Feng Jixing took a deep look at him and said, "If I don't come back, Duke Fan's Divine Might Battalion will have to worry about defending the steel wall." Zhen Yifan's expression turned solemn as he said in a low voice, "Feng, pass down the order. The Divine Might Battalion is to gather. Once all the Imperial Guards leave the city, we will leave the city immediately. If Prince Xian doesn't come back, how can we have the face to step into the Empire's territory?" "Yes, Father." Feng Jixing nodded, feeling gratified. This was how a Duke of the Empire should be. Ha 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 ha, Bai Minghuan's hearty laughter came out from the flowing spirit army's camp. He stood on the general platform, looking into the distance as he laughed out loud, "That Qin bastard's army is so weak, I think other than Feng Jixing's Imperial Guards, the rest of their armies are just a bunch of mobs. The outcome has been decided. Zhou Xinyao, you contributed the most in winning this battle. This move of going all out is indeed powerful. Crushing the opponent with absolute power. Beautiful. Don't worry, after this battle, you will be the chief strategist of the Tianji Empire." Zhou Xinyao smiled respectfully and said, "Thank you, Marshal, for your promotion." The rest of the generals also congratulated Zhou Xinyao. But not long after, a messenger suddenly rushed over from the back and said loudly, "Marshal, something bad has happened. Many parts of the provisions camp are on fire, and the fire is out of control." "What happened? Who is it?" "Longdan Army Camp. It's Lin Muyu's army." "Hasn't Longdan Army Camp been destroyed?" Bai Minghuan's mouth twitched. "What a bunch of bastards. All the soldiers who are not fighting, follow me. I swear I will kill Lin Muyu." "Yes, Marshal." Just as Bai Minghuan was leading thousands of soldiers back to the camp, a column of smoke rose into the sky in the distance. The provisions that the Tianji Empire had prepared for the 300,000 soldiers were all gone. And on the horizon, a black mass of people was coming. It was the cavalry of the Longdan Army Camp. On the way, they had killed all the soldiers of the Tianji Empire. Almost everyone's swords were stained with blood. And when they saw Bai Minghuan's army, they did not give way at all. Lin Muyu had no choice but to charge. "Kill!" Situsun raised his sword and shouted, "Kill all these Tianji Empire bandits! Kill all these Eastern barbarians! Protect our empire! Raise the prestige of our valiant army!" Everyone followed suit and shouted, "Protect our empire! Raise the prestige of our valiant army!" This was the real strongest army of the Qin Empire. Their roars from afar had already scared the generals behind Bai Minghuan. When countless cavalries appeared, many people from the Tianji Empire had already lost their will to fight. Facing such well-trained and powerful soldiers of the Longdan army camp, they had no chance of winning at all. Even if they had a martial god like Bai Minghuan, so what? It's Bai Minghuan. Wei Chou was shocked. Devil's Heart Arrow. Lin Muyu said in a low voice, 500 meters, is that okay? Yes. Wei Chou gave a low grunt as he knocked an arrow and shot it out. This was 500 meters, how could a normal archer have such arm strength and accuracy? But Wei Chou's arrow shot out like a beam of light, aiming right between Bai Minghuan's eyebrows. What? Bai Minghuan snorted and suddenly tilted his head. He grabbed the arrow with his left hand and crushed it. But the arrowhead still flew over and went through a captaincy's head. That was a martial god-level captaincy. Who has such archery skills? Bai Minghuan felt a chill in his heart. No, it didn't hit. Wei Chou hung his bow on the horse's back and pulled out his sword. He could only prepare for close combat. Situsen said, Bai Minghuan is a god emperor. Once he uses his power, I'm afraid we will lose a lot of people. Plus, he brought a lot of people with him. What should we do? Don't worry, you guys just have to charge. Lin Muyu suddenly sheathed his long sword and clasped his palms together. A vast divine power surged out of his body. Immediately, a dazzling golden light shot up into the sky. A huge golden will seal followed him as he advanced forward. When he pushed out his palms together, the divine will that was condensed from almost half of the divine power in his body flew forward. Buzz! The wheel was not a physical object, but a kind of domain-level power. It tore through the sky, leaving a deep ravine on the plain, and rushed toward Bai Minghuan and the others. Oh no! Bai Minghuan was shocked. It's a spirit wheel, be careful. Spirit wheel was an ability that grotto geniuses had a low chance of understanding after breaking through the 90th level of the immortal state. Even among the top gods, very few could control a spirit wheel. But this kind of power actually appeared in the hands of a boy from the mortal world. It was really unbelievable. Bai Minghuan roared and gathered his divine power to protect himself, but he could only protect a few people behind him. Boom! The spirit wheel raged through, and countless broken limbs flew in the air. Bai Minghuan was also blown back by this blow. His warhorse died, and his blood was boiling. He had already suffered internal injuries. Looking back, he saw that all the people behind him were dead, and there were only a few people left from the group of sacred warriors. Lin Muyu's casual blow had actually killed at least 10 captaincy and 100 kiliarchs of the Tianji Empire. Bastard, kill him! Bai Minghuan roared. The remaining people of the Tianji Empire were also red-eyed. They raised their weapons and rushed toward their opponents. In the blink of an eye, they clashed with the Longdan army camp. Bai Minghuan jumped down from the sky, and the heavenly palm with lightning struck toward Lin Muyu. After activating the spirit wheel, Lin Muyu was definitely not at an advantage over Bai Minghuan. He had already used up half of his divine power, while Bai Minghuan had only suffered minor internal injuries. Let me! Situsen let out a low roar as he swung his sword, bringing with it a chilling force. It was the icy jade snow of the star arts. Boom! Blood flew out. Situsen couldn't take this blow at all, and was pushed back while vomiting blood. Wei Chou quickly rode his horse to catch Situsen and said, "Protect General Sun." Lin Muyu flew up from the warhorse, and her sword was filled with the power of the purple sun. She slashed at the heavenly palm. Boom! The raging flames caused many cavalrymen to retreat. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was shaken by the Tianyu palm to the point that her mind was in chaos. Her figure fell rapidly, but she still landed on the back of Treading Snow's horse and urged it to gallop. You want to leave? Bai Minghuan stood in the air, and a longbow appeared in his hand. Everyone, charge forward. Don't stop. Lin Muyu ordered loudly. If the 30,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp stayed here, it would only ruin their plan. When the demon army in the Luo River estuary was killed, the Longdan army camp would also be wiped out. Clang! With the sound of the bowstring, a sharp arrow fell from the sky and shot into Lin Muyu's chest without any warning. This was an arrow shot by Bai Minghuan, who was an emperor god. The arrowhead came out of the chest, and with blood, it was pitch black. It was the demon heart arrow. Feeling weak, Lin Muyu almost fell off her horse. The divine power inside her began to clog up, and she could no longer gather divine power in her ocean of energy. Chapter 851. Protect His Highness. Wei Chou swung his sword and charged forward, and a group of Longdan army camp soldiers behind him threw their spears at him. You're courting death. Bai Minghuan's killing intent surged, and a powerful palm power exploded in the square formation of the Longdan army camp. Immediately, dozens of soldiers were smashed into pieces. The Heaven Scarlet Palm was very powerful, and Bai Minghuan had cultivated it for many years. It was not something ordinary martial arts could compare to. Lin Muyu, don't even think about escaping. Bai Minghuan came over on the wind, as fast as lightning. The domain power of an emperor god expert pressed down, causing the surrounding soldiers of the brave dragon camp to be unable to move. Even their warhorses were neighing non-stop. Many of them had stopped moving forward. Under the shroud of the domain, the space was like a quagmire that people couldn't extricate themselves from. It was extremely difficult to even move an inch closer. Bastard! Wei Chou turned back and put an arrow on his bow. A blood-red ghost god power poured into the arrow, and with a clang, the arrow left the bowstring, going straight for Bai Minghuan's neck. Bai Minghuan suddenly stopped his body. The arrow hit the earth gang wall in front of his neck and shattered, but it also shook the earth gang wall and created a crack. The white diamond arrow with the power of the ghost god was very sharp, and each of Wei Chou's arrows was very accurate. If he kept aiming at the crack, it would be hard to guarantee that he wouldn't fail. Bai Minghuan had always been a calm person, so he naturally wouldn't take the risk to keep chasing. If he died in the hands of a Saint Sky Realm kid, it wouldn't be worth it. There were more and more soldiers in the Longdan army camp, holding their swords and sabers, fearlessly charging at Bai Minghuan. They were using their lives to protect Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others as they passed through the Luo River estuary. The thunder light of the Scarlet Palm shot up into the sky, and Bai Minghuan fell into the slaughter again. Blood mist flew everywhere, and almost all the soldiers in the Longdan army camp who were hit by the palm exploded and died. Lin Muyu didn't even look back as he charged forward. The fact that he couldn't gather supreme god force didn't seem to affect him at all. With a slight shake of his arms, streams of King's battle flame surged into his arms, and he continued to fight with his Saint Heaven Realm cultivation. The screams of the Longdan army camp soldiers behind him pierced his heart like iron needles, but he had no choice but to keep moving. No matter how powerful Bai Minghuan was, he was only one man. How many people could he kill? Besides, the attacks from the soldiers in the Longdan army camp would also consume his divine power. After killing 100 or 1,000 people, Bai Minghuan would run out of his divine power. When the cavalry charged into the Luo River estuary, they could see a chaotic battle from afar. Tens of thousands of demon soldiers were surrounded in the center of the Luo River estuary. They could even see the figure of Tang Xiaoxi wielding her sword in the midst of the crowd. Xiaoxi is over there, Lin Muyu's heart trembled. He raised his ice origin sword and shouted, "Charge with me." Sounds of killing rose everywhere. Situ Sen, Wei Chou, Fengxi, Situ Shui, and the others led their troops and charged forward. About 50 meters away, they fired a round of magic crystal crossbows, which were the last batch of magic crystal crossbows in the hands of the people in the Longdan army camp. When the magic crystals shone in the crowd of tiger leopard cavalry, wolf cavalry, and other beast cavalry, they all turned around and saw the flag of the Longdan army camp swaying in the wind. In the center of the battle formation, a group of fox cavalry also looked out and said happily, "Your Highness, it's the Longdan army camp. His Highness King Qin is here to help us." Tang Xiaoxi's red robe was stained with blood, and her face was a bit pale. After fighting for half a day, she had almost used up all her divine power. At this moment, she no longer used the fire fox seal. Instead, she used her warrior qi to control the sharp sword to kill the enemies. She waved her sword slightly and pointed it to the north. She smiled and said, "Break through the encirclement and meet up with His Highness King Qin." Yes. The war drums thundered once more. The arrival of the brave dragon battalion was undoubtedly a reassuring blow to the demon race army. Everyone roared and charged north, fighting the tiger leopard cavalry with blood for blood. The demon race's strength was far inferior to the tiger leopard cavalry, but the exchange of 2 for 1, or even 3 for 1, caused the tiger leopard cavalry's expressions to change greatly. In the sky, a red light flashed past. It was Ouyang Yen. She finally made her move. Whoosh! Flames exploded among the tiger leopard cavalry. A tiger leopard cavalry member, captaincy, did not even have time to react before he was burned to ashes along with his mount. Ouyang Yen was well aware of this principle. With the death of the 10,000-man commander, the formation of the tiger leopard cavalry immediately began to fall into chaos. Originally, they had been charging forward unwaveringly, like an impenetrable fortress. But now that the guardian was gone, they began to loosen up. "Ouyang Yen, help us break through the encirclement," Tang Xiaoxi said loudly, but her voice was weak. She had used up too much of her strength. "Don't worry, Your Highness Shi." Ouyang Yen smiled and said, "We still have 4 good assistants to help us." "Oh. Be careful of the dragon riders in the sky." "Yes." There were still at least 30 members of the Tianji Empire's dragon riders circling in the sky. However, they had been fighting all this time and had lost more than half of their strength, so they were not much of a threat. "The air is here. Help us." A voice exploded in the air like thunder. It was Zheng Jian's voice. His temper had always been like this, but his strength was also very vigorous. With 2 swooshes, 2 terrifying fists of fire bloomed in the air, and actually blasted the 2 dragon knights down to the foot of the mountain in the distance like bats. Buzz! Ice swirled, and the divine power of the ice palm that fell from the sky blasted a sacred warrior-level dragon rider down with his dragon. By the time he landed on the ground, both the dragon and the man were already covered in ice and had lost the ability to fight. "Tie him up," Tang Xiaoxi said loudly. Immediately, a group of demon soldiers jumped off their horses and tied him up tightly. Capturing a dragon rider alive was still very good for the Qin Empire. At least they could understand the secrets of the dragon riders more clearly. Outside the valley, there came the hurried battle drums. That was another order from the Tianji Empire, ordering all the soldiers to fight bravely and retreat from the Luo River estuary. Bai Minghuan was already scared and did not dare to continue fighting in the Luo River estuary. Otherwise, his hundreds of thousands of soldiers would all be killed in one day. In the chaos, the Ice Origin sword sent out streams of fighting flame into the enemy's body. Lin Muyu did not even have time to pull out the arrow in his chest, nor did he have time to heal himself. He kept waving his sword, and at the same time, more and more wounds appeared on his body. He was wearing the white imperial robe, so he naturally became the target of everyone. All the soldiers of the Tianji Empire knew that this man was a high official, and that there would be a great reward for killing him. However, this man was very powerful, and no one was that lucky. Those who had tried to cut off Lin Muyu's head had basically lost their own heads. "Charge forward. Don't stop." Join the demon army and then counterattack. Lin Muyu ordered loudly. Suddenly, a man roared and charged over. It was a wolf rider, captaincy. The battle axe in his hand contained the power to split mountains, and he chopped at Lin Muyu's shoulder. Bang! The battle axe shook the battle armor and instantly broke it, but there was still a layer of dark energy on the wall of the gourd. He was a little startled, and then said with a fierce face, "You still have to die." A cold power came from the battle axe. Immediately, Lin Muyu cursed inwardly. She had underestimated this man. That's right, this wolf rider captain actually pretended to be weak and used his do chi to attack. However, when the battle axe was completely pressed against Lin Muyu's body, strands of frost divine power surged out. This was actually a deity-level expert. Pooh! White-robed Yulin's shoulder armor instantly shattered, and blood also spurted from Lin Muyu's shoulder. There was no one around to help him, so he could only rely on himself. Without thinking, he raised his left hand and grabbed the handle of the battle axe to stop it from falling. His right hand let go of the ice origin sword, and he grabbed the arrowhead protruding from his chest and snapped it. He forcefully smashed it into Captaincy's neck. The demonic heart arrow instantly removed his divine power, and the ice origin sword spun rapidly under the imperial sword technique. With a crack, Wolf Rider Captaincy's head flew into the sky. This series of actions was completed in the blink of an eye. Wolf Rider Captaincy would never have thought that this gentle-looking young general's fighting style would be so desperate. However, he didn't blame himself for dying. Lin Muyu had been fighting all these years, and in terms of actual combat experience, she was probably much stronger than this god-level warrior. "Protect Her Highness, you bunch of idiots!" Situ-san roared angrily and hurriedly urged his horse forward. He waved his sword and opened up a path for Lin Muyu. Seeing Situ-san's back, Lin Muyu finally let out a sigh of relief. He threw away the battle axe on his shoulder, and immediately saw a wound that was at least 3 centimeters deep. It was a bloody mess, and he trembled in pain. "Mu!" Tang Xiaoxi's voice came from afar, but Lin Muyu's consciousness was already a bit hazy. He could only feel his body involuntarily falling, and then landing in a warm embrace. He had been hit by over a dozen arrows, and the one on his chest was the most fatal. Fortunately, it hadn't hit his heart, and the axe strike on his shoulder made his injuries even worse. Blood soaked through his armor, and he looked extremely frightening. Tang Xiaoxi instantly started crying when she saw his frightening appearance. Everyone in the empire knew that Lin Muyu's strength was extraordinary, and his intelligence was outstanding. However, no one knew that he was just a person like everyone else, and not an invincible god like in the legends. "Protect the descendant." The sound of ice palms and fire fists came from the sky, followed by an angry roar. A huge figure rushed into the crowd of tiger-leopard cavalry and wreaked havoc. It was the Beeman King. Very soon, an elegant figure floated down. It was the spiritual scholar, Su Hao. He was also shocked when he saw Lin Muyu's appearance. "How is the descendant?" "Healing medicine, quick, healing medicine!" Tang Xiaoxi shouted. She knelt in a pool of blood and decided to bandage and heal Lin Muyu's injuries on the battlefield. His injuries couldn't be delayed, or else there would be many internal injuries left, which would affect his future cultivation. "Use mine." The spiritual scholar quickly took out a purple bottle and said, "This is the best medicine for muscle regeneration and hemostasis." "Princess Shi, there's no need to hesitate, quickly heal the descendant's injuries." Tang Xiaoxi gritted her teeth and pulled out the arrows in Lin Muyu's body one by one. As she pulled them out, her tears kept falling. Chapter 852. When Lin Muyu opened her eyes, her surroundings were still in chaos. Dust filled the air, and the sound of hooves shook the entire Luo River estuary. However, it was already close to dusk, which proved that the battle had lasted for an entire day. The surroundings were filled with blood and the burnt smell of the magic crystal cannons. From afar, the purple Yinhua flag fluttered amidst the smoke. There were also the flags of the nation-guarding army, the Longdan army camp, the Imperial Army, and the Divine Might Battalion. It was clear that the Empire had won this battle. Xiao Shi. He raised his head to look at Tang Xiaoxi and found that his head was resting on her snow-white legs. His body was shaking slightly. The two of them were in the chariot, and the person driving the horse was Wei Chou. Only he and Tang Xiaoxi had the face to drive the horse. "You're awake?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled. "Great, great, I remember seeing Su Hao, this subordinate is here, successor." Su Hao floated down. He had been flying in the air to protect Lin Muyu. "You're finally here." Lin Muyu used the spirit pulse technique to see that Su Hao had already stepped into the God King realm. She smiled. "Not bad. Even you, Su Hao, have stepped into the 30th heaven realm." Su Hao smiled. "In order to protect the Heavenly Tome Monolith Forest, we hid our identities in the White Leaves Forest and purposely did not ascend. After 10,000 years of preparation, we naturally succeeded. Successor, how's your body?" "I'm fine." Lin Muyu moved her arm. She felt that the sovereign matrix in her EC was madly absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy to replenish her divine power. Her Qi was also surging with divine power. This was good news. The temporary loss of divine power caused by the demon heart arrow had passed. "How are you now?" He raised his head, but all he could see were two peaks wrapped in clouds. After Tang Xiaoxi had stepped into the God King realm, her figure had become even better. Lin Muyu said, "Xiao Shi, you're blocking my view, ah." Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She suddenly realized what he was referring to, and her pretty face instantly flushed red. She said, "Scoundrel, you've just woken up and you're already making fun of me." "I didn't, it's true. Help me up, I want to see the battlefield." "Are you really okay? How about I help you fly and look down at the battlefield?" That's even better." Thus, Tang Xiaoxi supported Lin Muyu's arm and let his right arm wrap around her neck. Then, she activated her divine power and slowly flew up, bringing Lin Muyu into the air. They felt the night breeze. The weather in Lingdong province was not considered mild. The night breeze was like a storm, causing their cloaks to flutter. Inside the battlefield, there were clouds of smoke and corpses everywhere. Near the steel wall, corpses were piled up like mountains. Almost every pile of corpses contained at least 1,000 people. There were dozens of such piles of corpses. Together with the corpses in the Luo River estuary that had not been cleaned up, the number of people who died in this battle was definitely more than 200,000. In the distance, in the north of the Luo River estuary, in the territory of Tongtian province, the sound of killing was still echoing on the ground. Rows of Qin Empire's cavalry were chasing the defeated troops of Tianji Empire. Their banners were fluttering all over the mountains and plains. "Something's wrong." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. "What's wrong?" Tang Xiaoxi asked. "Gong Shangming is cautious in using his troops. He shouldn't have been so unprepared after such a setback. Even if the Longdan army camp burned their provisions, they shouldn't have been so defeated, right? They retreated in an orderly manner. This is the combat quality that a commander should have. Even if the Tianji Empire suffered heavy losses, it shouldn't be so miserable, right?" "You mean, it's a trap?" "Yes. Who was the one who commanded the Tianji Empire to attack the steel wall before? After Gong Shangming lost the first battle, Bai Minghuan changed his general at the last minute and ordered Zhou Xinyao to command today's battle. Now it seems that Zhou Xinyao's position as the chief strategist will be lost." "Zhou Xinyao?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "I've seen this man in Winter Frost City. He is courageous, but he shows off his abilities. He should be the kind of person who is resourceful but not good at scheming. Bai Minghuan must be blind to command this battle with Zhou Xinyao. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled and said, otherwise, I'm afraid the steel wall would no longer belong to the Qin Empire. Yes. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and looked at the ground. She said, Wei Chou, immediately send out a letter and order the troops who have chased to the north to withdraw immediately. Don't chase a desperate enemy. Yes, Your Highness. I hope it's not too late. Mu, are you so sure that Gong Shangming will set up an ambush in the north? I'm not sure, but there's at least a 50% chance that he will. Lin Muyu smiled lightly and said, war is a kind of game. How can you be sure? You can only guess what the opponent is thinking. If you can always guess correctly, then you're a famous general. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, you're right. Su Hao said respectfully, successor, your injuries have not healed yet. Why don't we go back to the steel wall and rest well? Miss Chu Yao's medical skills are superb, and she can diagnose and treat your injuries again. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. The war in the north was not something he could control anymore. The only thing he could do now was to wait for the situation to develop. Wei Chou and the 10,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp were left to wait outside the Luo River estuary. The others all went back to the steel wall to rest. No one knew when the next battle would be. Late at night, news kept coming. The troops under Feng Jixing, Zhen Yifan, Zhen Fang and Su Er had all returned one after another. Only the 30,000 imperial guards led by Zhang Wei had not returned. It was not until late at night that Zhang Wei returned. He was covered in blood and knelt down the moment he entered the meeting hall. What's wrong? Feng Jixing said lightly, didn't I tell you to withdraw immediately after sunset? Zhang Wei's face was pale and his whole body was trembling. Old Zhang, tell me clearly. How many troops did we lose? Lin Muyu asked. Only, less than 5,000 came back. What? Feng Jixing was infuriated. He slammed the table and stood up, bellowing furiously, men, drag this useless Zhang Wei out and behead him. Zhang Wei wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. Tears flowed from his eyes as he cried out, I, Zhang Wei, am convinced that your highness has beheaded me. I'm willing to die to pay for the lives of over 20,000 brothers. It's just that we were ambushed in the green-yellow forest and our brothers died too tragically. Zhang Wei only hopes that after I die, His Highness you and Prince Xian can lead the 3 armies to avenge my 20,000 brothers who died in vain, recover our lost land, and take back the Heavenspan province from the hands of the bandits, drag him out and behead him. Feng Jixing was really infuriated. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. How many resources were needed to nurture 25,000 imperial guards? Wait a minute. Lin Muyu said softly, Brother Feng, don't be angry first. Wait for me to find out the reason. Wei Chou, speak. Wei Chou knelt down on one knee and said, Your Highness, when I led 10,000 brothers from the Longdan army camp to provide support, I saw the green-yellow forest in flames. The Tianji Empire burned the entire green-yellow forest, and many of our brothers from the Imperial Guards were burned alive. However, Lord Zhang Wei led the troops to charge back and forth and fought valiantly. Without his command, we probably wouldn't have been able to break out of the encirclement. Moreover, the 25,000 Imperial Guards didn't die in vain. Before they died, they fought bravely and killed at least over 10,000 bandits. Is that so, Zhang Wei? Zhang Wei? Lin Muyu asked. Yes. Zhang Wei gritted his teeth and said, But I don't beg for your highness you to forgive me. Zhang Wei only wishes for death. I don't have the face to continue living in this world. Fine, drag him out and behead him, Feng Jixing said angrily. Brother Feng. Lin Muyu interceded, the Imperial Guards were almost wiped out in this battle, and there's a need to recruit new soldiers and reorganize them. This won't do if there's no one to train new soldiers for you. Why don't we let Zhang Wei make up for his mistakes with his meritorious deeds? Strip him of his position and just give him the position of a 10-man squad leader. After we recruit new soldiers, we'll let him train them. If he can't train the new soldiers well, it'll be too late to behead him then. After saying that, Lin Muyu threw a glance. Immediately, Wei Chou, Situ Sun, Luoyu, Fengxi, Zhenfang, and the other generals all knelt down and said loudly, "Your Highness, please forgive Zhang Wei." Qin Yan also said, "That's right. Your Highness, please forgive him this time. After all, Zhang Wei has also killed quite a number of bandits." After suffering such losses, the strength of the Tianji Empire's bandits will be greatly reduced, and they won't be able to continue attacking the steel protective wall. Humph. Feng Jixing's countenance was grim as he said calmly, "He can be spared from death, but he can't escape punishment. Men, send Zhang Wei to prison. Lock him up for 3 days and 3 nights. Don't even allow him to eat or drink." Yes. In fact, Feng Jixing could not bear to kill Zhang Wei either. This time around, if it wasn't for the fact that he had given Zhang Wei the authority to lead the troops due to his lack of consideration, they wouldn't have suffered such a defeat. However, the Imperial Guards had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle with the Flowing Mist Army, and the soldiers' deaths weren't in vain. The entire meeting hall fell silent. Not long later, someone from the Ministry of War's Minister Manor came. It was a young assistant minister who held a scroll of paper in his hand. He said, "Your Highnesses, the statistics are out." "Speak, the overall report," Lin Muyu said. "Yes." He opened up the scroll and said respectfully, "This time, there were a total of 370,000 soldiers from the Spirit Demon Army, Longdan Army Camp, Imperial Guards, Zither Dragon Army, God Might Battalion, and Prefectural Garrison Army. There were a total of 370,000 soldiers that participated in the battle. There were 134,000 soldiers that died, 76,000 were heavily injured, and over 30% of them were permanently unable to participate in the battle. There were 110,000 soldiers that suffered light injuries, and the losses of our resources were severe. We still have 30,000 magic crystal cannons, but there are less than 8,000 usable magic crystal crossbows. Other than that, we have calculated the losses of the enemy based on the battlefield." "Oh?" Feng Jixing was startled. "Speak." "On the battlefield, we collected a total of 63,542 corpses. The number of corpses that were destroyed by the magic crystal cannons and magic crystal crossbows numbered around 20,000. Adding on the corpses that were found after entering the northern region, we estimate that to be around 50,000 corpses. Thus, we have killed a total of 130,000 soldiers." 130,000? Feng Jixing could not help but laugh bitterly. "I initially thought that it would be a huge victory, but who knew that? It was only about the same. At least, they will not be able to spy on Lingdong province for a short period of time." "That's true." At this moment, a messenger suddenly rushed in from outside the residence and said anxiously, "A message from 8 Wastelands says that 8 Wastelands has fallen. The Tianji Empire's 150,000 Long Ji army seized all the territories in 8 Wastelands overnight. Their military strength is already approaching the northern fortress of Yunzhong province." "What?" Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing stood up together, their faces were filled with disbelief. Chapter 853. At the north ridge of Yanming Mountain, the bright moon hung high in the sky, spreading a layer of white frost on the ground. At the foot of the mountain, torches gathered in a long line. The faint sound of horses' hooves and the roar of machines could be heard. It was an army of no less than 10,000 people. Above a red maple on the mountain ridge, a beautiful girl quietly looked at everything at the foot of the mountain. A trace of displeasure and anger flashed in her eyes. That's Xian's army. Luo Fei sneered and said, she really brought a 10,000-strong army to the Shattered Cauldron realm. Humph. Does Xian really think that she can accomplish anything by relying on those filthy exiles and old machines? Dori was silent. Dora frowned. I just want to know what Xian wants to do. The Lord Ruler sent us to help the Celestial Pole Continent seize the territory of the Shattered Cauldron realm, but she brought 10,000 banished lands army and hasn't done anything yet. Now, she's sent this army to Yanming Mountain. What does she want to do? Who is her opponent? Luo Fei said, Dora, maybe Xian doesn't want to return to the God realm at all. She just wants to be a king in the mortal world, just like she did in the banished lands. She used the Lord Ruler and used his hand to raise her cultivation. Then, she came to the rich Shattered Cauldron realm. She wants to be a king in the mortal world. Really? Dora sneered. I don't think so. At this moment, the sound of huge dragons' flapping wings came from afar. Dragon knights had arrived, and two of them came one after the other. It's Ram Jean, Luo Fei said. Ram Jean was a dragon knight that Dora had borrowed from Dark North Abyss. She hadn't used him yet. It's not just Ram Jean. Dora's senses were even sharper. She squinted her beautiful eyes and said, there's an unfamiliar aura. Strangers are here. Indeed, in the night, two dragon knights jumped down from the dragon's back, floated to the ground, and knelt respectfully. Apart from Ram Jean, there was also a dragon knight in blue armor. He seemed to be around the 10th level Grotto Heaven realm, not too strong. Subordinate Ram Jean greets Lord Dora. Subordinate Lu Pei greets Lord Dora. Dora smiled faintly. No need for formalities. Lu Pei, where did you come from? I've traveled day and night from the 8 wastelands in the north under the command of Lord Dragon Rider General Lin Tong Tian and Commander Fong Lan of the Long Ji Corps. The Long Ji Corps has gathered 150,000 soldiers and seized the 8 wastelands. The 8 wastelands province that the Qin Empire has just divided is already under the control of the Tianji Empire. This time, the two lords have sent me to invite Lord Dora to fight the enemy side by side with us and attack the Cloud Province together. Cloud Province? Dora was stunned. Yes. Lu Pei said in a low voice, the Yunzhong province of the Qin Empire is very fertile. It is known as one of the 2 largest provinces in the northern region of the empire. It has a large population and many cities. However, the garrison is also very powerful. Luo Xian, the adopted son of the former Duke of Muyun, Su Muyun, is leading 200,000 steel-blade soldiers to defend the province. They have a lot of magic crystal cannons and all kinds of advanced crossbows and ballistae. Lord Fong Lan said that if we want to fight a tough battle, we still need the strength of the battle angels of the celestial realm. Okay, I got it. Dora, are you really going to attack the Yunzhong province? Luo Fei was stunned. What else? Dora laughed coldly. Are we going to stay on Yanming Mountain and watch Xian do nothing? Since Xian no longer recognizes the 3 of us as members of the Battle Angel Squad, then we will continue to complete the mission that the Western Divine Realm has given us. Helping the Tianji Empire conquer the Yunzhong province is also our duty. Yes, I understand. Lu Pei was overjoyed. Lord Dora has decided to help us? Of course. Dora smiled. Lord Gong Yongjin, gather all the dragon knights immediately. We will set off immediately. The sooner we conquer the Yunzhong province, the better. We will fly through the night and try to reach the Yunzhong province by dawn tomorrow. Yes. Dora floated in the wind. Her beautiful eyes looked toward the south mountains of Yanming Mountain. Her eyes were filled with jealousy and anger. She said softly, Xian, since you are so desperate to protect everything in the Shattered Cauldron realm, then I will help you. If I don't kill a few of the Qin Empire's famous generals, how can I be worthy of you, the golden-winged battle angel who was in the same class as me?" As she spoke, the black wings behind her suddenly spread open. They were filled with murderous intent. After receiving the inheritance of the black wings, the desire to kill in Dora's heart seemed to have been completely ignited. Killing could make her stronger, and it could also make her feel satisfied. On a small path in the forest, torches connected together, illuminating the armors of the soldiers. At the forefront of the cavalry was a general dressed in a golden robe. It was none other than Ding Shi, the person appointed by Xin to be the commander of the army of the exiles. Looking at everything around him, it was familiar yet strange. Along the way, they saw nothing but carnage and devastation. The once prosperous and powerful Sky Province no longer existed. All they could see were broken fences and dilapidated walls, as well as commoners who had lost their homes along the way. There were even many hunting squads from the Blackstone Empire hunting down commoners everywhere and turning them into slaves. The Blackstone Empire was known for its cruelty and tyranny. Their army had a tradition that the Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire did not have: cannibalism. Whenever there was a food crisis, the Blackstone Empire's army would kill the captives and use them as food. This tradition had been going on for thousands of years and had not changed at all. In the distance, the army of exiles passed by a forest, and the army of the Darkstone Empire was cooking there. The food was actually some hunters that they'd just captured, and after they killed them, they placed their limbs on the campfire to roast. The soldiers' laughter was extremely delighted, as if they were celebrating a festival. However, these soldiers from the Blackstone Empire did not make things difficult for Ding Shi and the others. After all, they were holding the flag of the Battle Angel Squad and had the token of the Tianji Empire. At least for now, the Tianji Empire and the Blackstone Empire were allies. Cough, cough, cough. Ding Shi coughed violently. He could not bear to look at everything in the forest. Back then, this land belonged to the Yihe Kingdom, and these commoners were the people of the Yihe Kingdom. Ding Shi could not bear to see them suffer such a calamity, but he was powerless. If it were not for the repeated defeats, how could the commoners have fallen to such a state? Thinking of this, Ding Shi could not help but feel bitter in his heart. He muttered, "Commander Long, oh, Commander Long, if it weren't for our incompetence, how could the commoners have suffered such a calamity?" At the side, Ding Senging said softly, "Commander Ding, don't blame yourself. Everything is in the past. Now that we are following Lord Xin from the Battle Angel Squad, we should not be bullied anymore." "Do you only think about not being bullied?" Ding Shi said indifferently. "Senging, do you think? Is Xin really Her Highness Yin? Is it important whether she is or not?" Ding Senging said. "No, it is too important." A glint flashed in Ding Shi's eyes as he said, "Commander Qin Yi has already abandoned us. Now, it is Lord Xin who has saved Dragon-Shaped Island and the millions of people on Dragon-Shaped Island. If she is really Qin Yin, then she is the return of the king and the rightful successor of the great Qin Empire. Only with the return of Qin Yin can the people of the Shattered Cauldron Realm unite as one and get rid of the Eastern barbarians. If this cannot be done, I'm afraid that the Shattered Cauldron Realm will really become a land of slavery for others. If the Blackstone Empire is like this, then how can the Tianji Empire and the Celestial Empire be any better? This is a catastrophe for the common people." Ding Senging smiled and said, "Marshal, don't think so much. Lord Xin doesn't even admit that she is Qin Yin. Perhaps she is not. After all, Qin Yin is the ruler of the great Qin Empire. As for Xin, look, Xin's weapon of battle is a pair of eyes that belong to a god and not the orthodox god-binding chains of the great Qin Empire. Isn't that right?" Yes, Xin can't condense the god-binding chains. Perhaps she really is not. Ding Shi looked at the road under the horses' hooves with some disappointment. I wonder why Lord Xin called us to the Shattered Cauldron realm this time. Is it for war? The Banished One Legion is used to conquer, so naturally, it's for war. Otherwise, would we be here for sightseeing? I heard that the Blackstone Empire's main force was defeated by Su Jiantao in Sangnan province with 50,000 troops. He. I really didn't expect Governor Sangnan Su Jiantao to have this kind of ability. I didn't see it when our Iha nation was fighting the Empire. Su Jiantao has followed Lin Muyu for a long time, so he naturally learned a lot about the art of war. Ding Shi's eyes lit up. With Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing around, perhaps great things can be expected. However, the two of them are not members of the Qin family, so the feudal vassals can't be loyal to them. The three kings have ruled for so many years, but they are not as united as the Radiant King. And the Radiant King? If it wasn't for Qin Jin's stubbornness, he probably wouldn't have been killed by the commander-in-chief at Fairy Lake. Ding Shi laughed self-deprecatingly. Now that you mention it, I feel that I have done so many things all these years. Am I really suspected of being an accomplice to a villain? Ding San was even more startled. Marshal, why do you say that? Could it be that, when the commander-in-chief killed Qin Jin, wasn't it to rid the world of evil? Is that so? Ding Shi's lips curled into a meaningful smile as he said, a throne has caused 10 years of strife, 10 years of calamity for all living beings in the world. If this is considered to be getting rid of evil for the people, forget it. He paused, then continued, let's not talk about this. You and I stayed on Dragon-Shaped Island to protect the commander-in-chief, so we can be considered people who have died once. Now that we have repaid the commander-in-chief's kindness, we should be in control of our own lives from now on. As he spoke, Ding Shi looked at the iron pipe in the hand of a leader-level exile and asked, Brother, what's the name of that weapon in your hand? The leader bared his yellow teeth and smiled. It's a magnetic cannon, but the battery is about to run out. After that, I won't be able to use it again. Otherwise, I would definitely show the commander-in-chief how powerful this fellow is. Even the sour rotting boars in the banished lands can be blown to pieces with one shot. Ding Shi's face twitched. Then it's better not to see it. Order the army to speed up and head to Yanming Mountain as soon as possible. Yes. Chapter 854. In the South Ridge camp of Yanming Mountain, the white tent trembled gently in the evening wind. Lord Xin, Commander Ding Shi is here. Outside, a guard said in a low voice. It was warm and cozy inside the tent. Xiyin sat quietly at the table as the candlelight flickered, illuminating a parchment map on the table. The map was a detailed map of the major provinces of Lingnan. Let him come in. Yes. The curtain door was lifted. Ding Shi came in with Ding Sengeng and 2 other lord-level exiles. He knelt down respectfully and performed the etiquette of the Qin Empire. He said, General Ding Shi greets Lord Xin. No need to be so polite. Get up and take a seat. Yes. After Ding Shi sat down, he glanced around and found that Terralin, Lake, Zhou Shimin, and the other battle angels were also there. It seemed like these angels didn't sleep or rest in the middle of the night. Furthermore, this group of battle angels were very young. The combination of handsome men and beautiful women really didn't fit in with the group of ugly exiles and battle-hardened soldiers that he was leading. I have brought the 10,000 exiles and 10,000 original troops of the Tianji Empire. In addition, I have also reorganized and expanded 5,000 original elite soldiers of the dragon-shaped island. They are at Lord Xin's command at any time. Commander, you have worked hard. Xin smiled slightly. In the future, there is no need to be so troublesome. Please reorganize this army and directly name it the Xin Army. Yes, I will. Commander Ding Shi, come forward and look at the map. Yes. Ding Shi knelt forward and glanced at the map with the candlelight. He knew that it was the map of Lingnan. Then he almost didn't need to look at anything. He had been the marshal of Iha country for 10 years and had long known the terrain of Lingnan. He even exaggerated to the point that he knew every grass, every tree, every mountain, and every river. This was his home and once his world. "Commander, you only need to take a look." Xian closed his eyes and asked in surprise. Ding Shi smiled. "No need. I can draw this map by hand." "That's good." Xian said, "The Dark Stone Empire's Fu Yu led the Ashen Flame army to be defeated in Dark South Province, and they've already rested for many days. Now, they're accumulating strength and waiting to attack. I presume Fu Yu is definitely unwilling to accept this defeat. Commander, where do you think he'll attack next?" Ding Shi pondered for a moment and smiled. "The Qin Mountains are very sturdy and controlled by the Qin Empire. It will be difficult for Fu Yu to gain any advantage there. As long as Fu Yu and Marshal Bailey Qin are not stupid, they will definitely choose another route of attack. There are 2 roads to the west of Lingnan Province. One is the road to Lingnan Province, but they must pass through the Dragon-Slaying Pass on the Baimong Mountain. This Dragon-Slaying Pass is very sturdy. I have already sent people to investigate and found out that it is currently guarded by Su Jiantao and 70,000 soldiers. The other road to the west is the official road to Mingshan Province, but they also need to pass through a pass on the Baimong Mountain. This pass is called the Divine Heaven Pass and is guarded by the Mingshan Province's army. Currently, the army of Mingshan Province is guarded by Xiangyu, the descendant of Xiang Wentian. If I am not wrong, Fu Yu will choose to attack the Divine Heaven Pass and fight it out with Xiangyu. Why? Because Fu Yu is already very afraid of Su Jiantao. He suffered a huge defeat in the hands of Su Jiantao. As the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. However, Fu Yu does not know of Xiangyu's prowess, so he will definitely attack the Divine Heaven Pass that Xiangyu is guarding. Yes. Xian smiled. Commander is indeed perceptive, worthy of being a famous general. You are too kind, Lord. I am just a defeated general. Ding Shi was silent for a few seconds before he asked, Lord Xian, you have asked me so many questions. What is your plan? Also, you have ordered the 25,000 soldiers of the Xian Corps to be gathered at the Yanming Mountain. What are your intentions? Lord Commander must have witnessed the brutality of the Blackstone Empire's army. Yes. Xian smiled and said, the ruler ordered me to help the celestial pole continent seize the Shattered Cauldron Realm, but not in this way. The Shattered Cauldron Realm will also be a citizen of the celestial pole continent in the future. I must stop the Blackstone Empire from continuing their slaughter. Therefore, I have decided that instead of letting Fu Yu seize the city, it is better for us to seize the city ourselves. We will rely on the Xian Corps to attack the Divine Heaven Pass before Fu Yu, then we will march straight in and conquer the entire Mingshan province. Along the way, we must not offend the people. With the Mingshan province in our hands, we will not have to suffer the brutality of the Blackstone Empire. Ding Shi's eyes completely lit up. Really? Yes, I will not lie to you. Yes. Ding Shi took a step back and knelt on one knee. He put his fists on the ground and said, as long as Lord Xian gives the order, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. I have no other requests. Commander Ding Shi, you will command this battle. All the troops, battle angels, including me, will listen to your orders. The only thing I want you to do is to seize the Divine Heaven Pass at the lowest cost. Yes, I understand. The next day, the war drums rumbled. The 20,000 soldiers of the Xian Corps left the Yanming Mountain and went straight to the Divine Heaven Pass. In the afternoon, the cavalry had already set up camp 5 miles away from the Divine Heaven Pass. In the evening, the 25,000 soldiers had already gathered. Banners fluttered in the air as if the entire mountain was filled with the Xian Corps. Ding Sengeng and the other generals bought food from all over the place. However, they couldn't last too long, or else they would be defeated. After nightfall, the forest was quiet. A few figures appeared on the low slope. They were Ding Shi, Xin, Taralin, and the others. "Lord, please take a look." Ding Shi pointed at the pass in the distance and said, "The Divine Heaven Pass is very sturdy. It is made of huge rocks from the deep mountains. The wall is 25 meters high, ordinary siege towers and catapults can't reach it. There are 24 watchtowers on the wall, and each watchtower can accommodate 50 archers. If all of them are deployed, I'm afraid it will be a nightmare for us. Lord, as you can see, there are nearly 50 magic crystal cannons on the wall. If all of them are fired, the Xian Corps will become history in at most half a day." Xian didn't open her eyes. She could sense everything with her spirit sense. She just smiled and said, "I saw all of this. But Commander, you are now the commander of the 3 armies. You can make all the decisions. I just want a result." "All right." Ding Shi pondered and said, "I have a feasible method, but I need Lord's cooperation." "Speak." "Lord, please take a look there." Ding Shi pointed to the distance and said, "There is a watchtower at the center of the city. It is 50 meters tall and can see everything in our army. I believe that Xiangyu in the heavenly fortress should already know about our military strength. In another 2 hours, when the sky is completely dark, my lord, please lead 6 members of the Battle Angel team to attack this watchtower. But it is best not to kill anyone, just show the strength of the Battle Angels. The best situation is to see Xiangyu. After my lord shows the power of the flaming eyes to Xiangyu, immediately lead the Battle Angel team back. In this way, I will personally go to the heavenly fortress tomorrow morning. Perhaps, we can take down the heavenly fortress without any bloodshed." "Really?" Xian was excited. "There is no joking in the army." "All right, I will listen to you." "Thank you, Lord." After nightfall, countless torches were lit on the heavenly fortress, and even the braziers were lit. Archers stood in great numbers on the walls as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone knew that an army had arrived, although they still didn't know the origin of this army. "Greetings, Duke Yu." When Xiangyu walked on the wall in his military uniform, a group of soldiers knelt down and saluted. Xiangyu didn't say anything, but his face was ashen. He didn't expect to encounter such a thing after rushing back to Bright Mountain Province. Unfortunately, most of his 70,000 men were still on the way back, and he only brought 5,000 cavalrymen with him. The defense force of the entire Divine Heaven Pass was less than 20,000. "Have you figured out who the enemy is?" Xiangyu asked coldly. "I don't know." A 10,000-man commander said in a trembling voice. It was as though they had descended from the sky. "That flag was also something we've never seen before. According to our military advisor's understanding, there's no such flag in the celestial pole continent. This army does not belong to the 3 empires." "Humph, outrageous." Xiangyu shouted, "Prepare the magic crystal cannons and boulders. Don't let them get close to the wall. No matter who they are, invading our Bright Mountain Province is tantamount to courting death." "Yes. All archers are to be on the watchtower. No one is to slack off. Otherwise, they will be dealt with according to military law. Follow me to the watchtower and see who these people are. They are actually so arrogant to set up camp 5 miles away." "Yes, Duke Yu." A group of people went up the watchtower. There were also many archers and shield-wielding guards on the watchtower. Xiangyu was one of the 4 dukes of the empire after all. His status was too honorable. Just as everyone stabilized themselves, a sharp-eyed soldier suddenly pointed into the distance. "There seems to be something flying over in the night sky." "What?" Xiangyu squinted his eyes. Someone was indeed coming. No, it should be a god. Waves of god power rippled in the air, making people feel reverence. They didn't come with good intentions. Furthermore, they were extraordinarily strong. Fire arrows. Yes. Countless fire arrows flew into the sky, but they couldn't reach the incoming person. It was already not bad if an ordinary fire arrow could shoot 20 meters high. Under the illumination of the light, a total of 7 figures came over with the wind. They were all wearing strange clothes and didn't look like people from Shattered Cauldron Realm. Be careful. Xiangyu raised the bloodthirsty spear and said, "Pass down the order, prepare for battle. Aim the muzzles of the magic crystal cannons far away. Immediately blast them to pieces within 300 meters. Yes." In less than 5 seconds, the sound of cannons rang out. Fiery red magic crystal cannons fell into the sky like meteors. However, the people in the sky didn't seem to panic. When the magic crystal cannons flew around, they immediately collided with an invisible barrier. It was a wall of light. In the blink of an eye, all the magic crystal cannons exploded. However, the other party continued to fly forward covered in smoke. Bah! Terralyn grumbled, "The explosion ruined my makeup." Lake was speechless. "It's already good that they didn't die. Get ready. Zhou Shimin, let's each take one side and cut off the 2 wings of the watchtower. How about it?" Yes. The 2 turned into streams of light and flew over. Swoosh swoosh. 2 sword energies fell and directly cut off the 2 wings of the watchtower. That was a fortification built with giant rocks. Bastard, Xiangyu saw it clearly, but he also felt a chill in his heart. The incoming party was many times more tyrannical than he had imagined. Moreover, there were 7 of them at once. What should he do? However, apart from himself, who else here could fight against this group of mysterious experts with wings on their backs? Roar! With a shout, Xiangyu's body burst into flames. The bloodthirsty spear soared into the sky with the majestic power of the Chaos 9 strikes and went straight for Terralyn, who was flying in front of him. Chapter 855. Don't hurt him. Sheen's voice came from the wind. Terralyn smiled and unsheathed the exquisite sword hanging at her waist. Light divine power burst out from the blade and soared into the sky. Holding the sword with both hands, she heavily slashed at Xiangyu's 7th move of the chaotic 9 strikes, Heavenly Reincarnation. Bang! The power of light seemed to transform into a sharp sword and easily cut Xiangyu's fire divine power in half. The disparity in strength was almost not something that could be made up for by any skill. With just one strike, Xiangyu's strongest move had been broken. Clang! The blade fell on the spear handle, and a total of 45 waves of divinity hit Xiangyu so hard that he almost vomited blood. He forcefully clenched his teeth and endured it, but his body bounced back to the watchtower like a cannonball. Pa! A shockwave spread out. He had to rely on the ground to neutralize Terralyn's tyrannical attack. Are you alright? The group of generals was dumbfounded. No one expected that Xiangyu, who was known as the descendant of the god of war, could not even take a single blow from his opponent. Xiangyu was also one of the few people in the empire. Xiangyu raised his head and looked at Terralyn in the wind. He never thought that such a young girl would have such power. The light wings behind her gently flapped, as if they were a blessing of power. It was very mysterious. How could he swallow this? After recovering a little, Xiangyu shot out like lightning again. The bloodthirsty spear danced wildly and pierced the sky like a dragon. But at this moment, a voice sounded, "Terralyn, retreat." Sheen had arrived. Xiangyu's eyes widened. He saw a familiar figure. Was that Qin? But it didn't seem like it either. A pair of golden wings of light was slowly unfurling behind her. Her eyes were closed, and tiny golden flames danced around her eyelashes. Her eyelids twitched slightly, as if she would open her eyes at any moment. You. Xiangyu was dumbfounded. However, at this moment, the eyes of the blazing dawn opened. What kind of eyes were they? Even the fiend god eyes paled in comparison. The majesty of the world instantly gathered together, pressing down on Xiangyu and the group of people behind him so hard that they could barely open their eyes and look at them. Many generals had even knelt down one after another, unable to endure this scorching aura and blazing light. The words that Xiangyu wanted to say were forcibly swallowed back. His face was full of shock as he landed on the observation deck. He stood there dumbfounded, unable to say a word. The eyes of Blazing Dawn only opened for a few seconds before closing. Sheen said lightly, "Let's go." A few figures disappeared into the night. That night, the Sheen army did not attack. How is this possible? How is this possible? In the meeting hall of the Divine Heaven Fortress, Xiangyu sat there with a frown, constantly repeating the same words. "Master Yu, what's going on?" A captaincy asked. "Didn't you see her?" "Who are you referring to?" Everyone was stunned. "Empress. It's Her Highness. She has come back to life." Xiangyu was so excited that his whole body was trembling. "That's impossible. Isn't it said that Her Highness is already dead?" A Chiliarch asked cautiously. "No, Her Highness is not dead," Xiangyu said in an indisputable manner. At this moment, another person at the table said, "That's right, Master Yu is right. I saw her just now. She is indeed Her Highness Qin Yin. Her voice and smile are exactly the same as 6 years ago. I have also seen her before and recognize her." The person who spoke was the governor of Yu City, an old official who had once met the Empress. "That's right, Governor Wang is right. She is Her Highness." Xiangyu frowned and said, "What I don't understand is why Her Highness became like this. Did she become an angel of the Western Divine Realm? Also, what's with those soul-stirring eyes?" The governor said, "Master Yu, since Her Highness has reincarnated after death, she must have experienced many things. Now that she is leading tens of thousands of troops to the city, I think, she must have something to express. No, prepare a horse. I want to go out and see her." Xiangyu stood up abruptly. "Please don't. Master Yu, you are a priceless person. You still can't confirm that she is Her Highness Yin. What will happen to the Divine Heaven Pass if you go there rashly? Don't worry, since she is here, there will be news tomorrow morning. We just have to wait and see." This. Xiangyu was silent. Captaincy, who was at the side, said, "If Her Highness has really come back to life, this news will be enough to inspire the people of the Empire. Should we immediately send a letter to the 3 princes in the capital?" "No need," Xiangyu said indifferently. "For the time being, there is no confirmed news, so no one can casually spread the news. Besides, I hope that this news will stop here in this meeting hall today. Whoever dares to spread the news, be careful of their heads." A chill permeated the surroundings, and everyone fell silent at the same time. The governor of the city of Yu smiled and didn't say anything. He knew very well that Xiangyu had followed the Empress's orders to go to Bailing City and use the Iha nation to get rid of Tang Lan, the thorn in her side. Xiangyu had done a lot of work for the Empress, but from another perspective, the person that Qin Yin valued the most was her lover, Lin Muyu. Therefore, this news couldn't be leaked to Lin Muyu first. Before Lin Muyu appeared, Xiangyu had to give her all the credit he could. Otherwise, he would lose the initiative. That night, Xiangyu couldn't sleep. When the rooster crowed, a guard's voice came from outside, "Master Yu, there is an envoy from outside the pass. He claims to be the commander of the Xin Legion, Ding Shi." "Ding Shi?" Xiangyu was stunned. Didn't Ding Shi die on the dragon-shaped island with Long Qianlin? Why is he outside the pass? What is the Xin Legion? Could it be Xiang Yu's thoughts were in a mess, and he stopped thinking about it. After putting on his cloak, he said, "Men, prepare a horse. I will personally go out to welcome Ding Shi." Yes. Early in the morning, the fog pervaded the city pass. Xiang Yu led many cavalrymen out of the fog and went out of the city through the iron gate under the pass. Sure enough, there was one person standing in the thick fog outside the city, and only one person. Who else could it be but Ding Shi? It is indeed Marshal Ding Shi. Xiang Yu cupped his fists and smiled. It has been a long time. I wonder whose envoy Marshal Ding Shi is now. Back then, Marshal Ding was the captaincy of my empire's swift white province garrison. Later, he followed Qin Yi, but now he is the commander of some Xin legion. TSK, the marshal wears 3 surnames on his head. How admirable. Ding Shi's expression was calm, as if he couldn't hear Xiang Yu's sarcasm. Does General Xiang Yu still remember the golden-eyed woman from last night? She is called Xin, and the army under her command is called the Xin Legion. Now, I am the commander of the Xin Legion, serving Lord Xin. Are you satisfied with this answer? What? She is Xin? Xiang Yu came to a realization and frowned. Ding Shi, what do you mean? What do I mean? Ding Shi sneered. Didn't General Xiang Yu just laugh at me for being a slave with 3 surnames? I, Ding Shi, do not acknowledge such words. From beginning to end, I am only loyal to Qin. Qin. Could she really be? The answer Xiang Yu wanted was already on the verge of coming out. Ding Shi smiled faintly. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Last night, I saw the number of chimneys in the heavenly fortress. Your army is no more than 20,000 people at most. They can't stop the iron hooves of the Xin Legion. Not to mention, there will be 200,000 Blackstone Empire troops coming from behind us. General Xiang Yu is a smart man. Of course, you know what to do. Why didn't Her Highness tell me personally? Xiang Yu asked. Her Highness's words are priceless. How can she tell you this so easily? Xiang Yu, open the gates at noon and surrender. Hand over all your military power to Lord Xin. Perhaps we can contend against the Blackstone Empire by combining our 2 forces. Otherwise, both Shangyang City and Yu City will become dead cities. Please take care. This is also Lord Xin's wish. Xin, Xiang Yu frowned. Xiang Yu, what are you still hesitating for? Ding Shi shouted. Do you want to see a calamity befall the common people? Do you want to defy her will? Don't forget whose vassal you are. Xiang Yu trembled from Ding Shi's shout. After a few seconds, he raised his head and said, There's no need to wait until noon. Lord Ding Shi, please tell her immediately that Xiang Yu is willing to surrender the city. Your army can enter the city at any time. This general will provide shelter, food, and fodder. There are a total of 90,000 troops in Mingshan province, ready to be deployed at any time. Very well. Ding Shi nodded his head with a satisfied smile, spurred his horse forward, patted Xiang Yu's arm, and said with a smile, Don't worry, you won't make a loss in this business. After we recover the Central Plains, your status will only be higher than now. Then, thank you, Lord Ding Shi. I'll go back and report. Have Lord Xiang Yu prepare a meal and welcome her at noon. Yes, this general will obey. At noon, the sun dispersed the fog, and the Xin army entered the Shengtian Pass in a mighty manner. Xiang Yu and a group of imperial generals knelt on both sides of the road and shouted in unison, We kneel to welcome the return of Her Highness the Empress. Riding a fine horse, Xin sensed the people on both sides of the road in astonishment. Finally, she faced Xiang Yu, closed her eyes, and said, I've seen you before. You are Xiang Yu, the Duke of Southern. You may rise. You have an honorable status, so there's no need for you to bow to me. Xiang Yu was stunned, but when he saw a sly smile on Ding Shi's face, he immediately felt that he had fallen into this old fox's trap. Could it be that this girl in front of him wasn't Empress Qin Yin? But looking at her every frown and smile, they were exactly the same. It was impossible for there to be two people in this world who were so similar. Forget it, since the city was already opened, it was too late to regret. He would just do as he was told. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.